What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the film room. I am back in my studio. Thank goodness I'm back home in upstate New York. Anthony, we have another film room edition this week, a
Big one.
special edition, a postseason
Ooh,
edition against the Patriots that we're going to break down a ton of film, a
yeah,
ton of analytics, brother. We put in a lot of work the last 2 days to get this show set up. So how you doing? How you feeling, brother?
I'm good. I'm excited. It's postseason week, so I'm equally excited and equally anxious for this game to happen against. I mean, it's the team that we all hate. It's the playoffs. There's so much riding on this, and we have a different spin on tonight's film room, which I'm excited for. But I'm also sad. I mentioned to you this offline. While you were down there in Texas, I clearly had the best background between the two of us. And now you're back. I've got competition. I don't like it. I'm a little threatened. But other than that, I'm good.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the show. Again, give us a roll call. It's been a while. I'm
Mhm.
back home. Ant's ready after the holidays and whatnot, ready to break down some film. Let's get a roll call going. Where's everyone tuning in from? As Ant said to me prior to this going live here, he says strap in because we have a big show for you. It's going to
Yeah.
be a long one. So if you need to get some water, stay hydrated. If you need to get some beverages, a proper drink, by all means, go grab
Go to
it
the
now.
bathroom now.
Go now because we're going to be here for a little bit, probably a little longer than what's normal for our film room. So, Ant, why don't you give the viewers a heads up, a layout, a format about what we're going to do tonight in the film room?
I want to pull up this comment. Shout out to Michael for recognizing all the shows that I've been on this
Yeah.
week and all that stuff. I appreciate that, Michael. Thank you very much. So the idea, which is your brainchild, was the idea of studying each side of the ball. So you focusing on the Bills offense and thus the Patriots defense, me focusing on the Patriots offense and thus the Bills defense, and approaching it from the perspective of acting like we're pro scouts for that team. So basically going out, reviewing the film, taking a look at tendencies, combining that with metrics, putting it together with what we're seeing on the film. And then this session is almost like we are reporting back to the coach, the head coach or the GM to be like, hey, this is what I found. So for instance, again, you're covering that offensive side. This is like you being like, hey, Sean McDermott and Brandon Bean, this is what I found out. This is an area where I think we can attack the Patriots defense based on what I've seen that we do well, based on what they struggle with, based on the numbers, the metrics, all that kind of stuff. So it's a little different than our normal spin, which is, focusing on one broad theme and attacking it with all these detailed moments and clips. This time we're approaching it from more of a professional pro scout standpoint and a
Pro
reporting
Scout.
back
Yes.
standpoint in terms of, how to build the matchup rather than reviewing it.
Right. So we're gonna go go through a bunch of film from prior games of the Patriots and the Bills for that matter. We're gonna break some of that down. We're gonna show you some tendencies, by down and distance. Probably a lot of things that maybe the analytics and Dennis Locke type crew and department are gonna, bring to Dable when they're making this game plan. Hey, this is what they do, like what covers they like to play on certain down and distances. So you're gonna have that kind of reported and shown on the screen. So if you guys are into that kind of thing, make sure to have your notebook and pen ready for that. But then again, we're going to dive into the film. So as pro scouts, there are several pro scouts on the staff of the Bills. And what they're doing is they're looking at games, usually it's like 4 to 5 games leading into the game. But this is the playoffs. I'm sure they can pull, as Belichick, he mentioned something maybe last week in a presser, how they approach like the technology and how far it's coming. Like if you want to see every sack against Deion Dawkins and like how guys won against him. Like you can do that every pressure. Like you can do that in programs like we use Huddle that you see every week in the film room. So we're going to approach it from that angle. This is how they defended or trips formations in the past. And that's one of the things we're going to look at, how the Patriots defend trips, because as we saw in that week 16 matchup, the Patriots had a hard time defending McKenzie. Was it a one-off type of game? Maybe, but we're going to show you throughout the year why that was working and why it became a big theme in that game. And the other thing that we're going to do when it comes to the Patriots defense is RPOs. It's obviously a huge part of the Bills offense, and you got to keep your identity when you get into these big games. What has worked well for you guys for the Bills all year? So those things are going to be studied as well in the film room. And tell them what you're going to be looking at when it comes to Mac Jones and the Patriots offense.
So This film room worked perfectly in tandem with some things I went over in disguise coverage last night. So the focus for last night's disguise coverage for me was I had Bruce Nolan on, and we each did our top 3 most important matchups to watch for the Bills Patriots wildcard game, and focusing on the matchups that would really decide the game and thus were most important. And I think it's no secret at this point, when talking about the Patriots offense, you've got 2 conversations. You've got the trying to mitigate the Patriots run offense with how good their line is and how good their running backs are, and then trying to force Mac Jones to beat you. So my focus for the Patriots offense and the Bills defense was what teams have done against the Patriots, specifically what Miami did last week. They really put a hurting on the New England Patriots. I know what the final score was, but it was 27-10 at one point. Miami was just doing so many good things that really highlighted how to put Mac Jones in disadvantageous situations for him. And the Bills did some of those things too against the Patriots in week 16. So I focused on really how teams are defending Mac Jones and the Patriots on third down, how they try to get the Patriots behind the sticks and force them into third and predictable situations, and how teams have been successful against New England in doing that, and how the Bills are able to replicate some of those things and win that matchup against Mac Jones, especially on third down, but overall in the passing game.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun night, guys. Like I said, grab your beverages. We're getting started right now. So, as I said at the beginning, at the top of the show, we're going to go from top to bottom. We're going to bring some analytics. We're going to bring the film. And I want you guys to keep in mind as we start on the Bills offense. So, I scouted the Patriots defense. All right. So, keep this in mind. Coordinators create game plans based on tendencies. You're going to see down and distances. Okay, what do they like to do on first down? What do they like to do on third and medium? That's how the offensive staff will really curate their game plan. So keep that in mind. But some of the tendencies that I outlined of the Patriots defense, what coverages they like to play on those down and distances versus certain formations, yada, 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 those could change. Obviously, the Bills are a pass-heavy team. So what the Patriots do versus the Bills on first and second down, the base offense, is probably a lot different than they would, present to the Titans, for that matter, right? Run-heavy team. So those tendencies overall that you're going to see, they could be different based on the Bills offense, obviously. So keep that in mind. And obviously the game script, it's a thing that everyone talks about now, game script, and how important it is. But it's not just based on success, because the good coordinators not only, show good plays that may work in that first 15, 20, 25 plays, but also different personnel groupings, different formations, different wrinkles that they want to throw in to see how said defense is going to react to that. So keep that in mind. And then, of course, scouts do it. We do it. When you're watching broadcast copy, like usually right after the game, when I watch the game again, I have that volume really high. I want to listen to it really loud because I want to hear audibles, checks, communication in the secondary. And you're going to see that even more so when, like, say the Patriots were an away team. Like, you're going to see those hand signals and stuff like that. So keep that in mind. Like, I'll point a couple out as we go through the film, and I steal signals all the time. It's how I put coverages to the test. I mean, that's how you see it, and you're going to see a couple plays that I stole a couple signals of the Patriots. So keep these things in mind when we're going over the film. So let's talk about personnel. As I said, first and second down, Patriots defense. What do they like to play? What personnel grouping? Well, 50% of the time they're in a 3-3-5. That's 3 down linemen, 3 linebackers, 5 DBs. Now, they're a hybrid type team. They have a lot of hybrid players, the Van Noys, the Jamie Collins. I mean, even Hightower is little, kind of part edge, part linebacker, inside linebackers. So 50% of the time on first and second down versus base offenses for the entire year, they're in 3-3-5. But again, as I said, in week 16 against the Bills, that changed. In 55% of the time, they were in a 2-4-5. So 2 down linemen, 4 linebackers, 5 DBs, 55% of the time. So little change in tendency there. So keep those things in mind when we're going over these stats. And then I'm not going to name everything on these slides, but just the ones that really stand out. Obviously, in first and second down, they stack the box 26% of the time, which means, hey, everyone's up. They're stopping the run. More times than not, they're playing man coverage. They're number 8 in the league on first or second down in man coverage. And the other thing that stands out across the board, you'll see it on first and second down, third and medium, third and long, is they use a lot of 3-man rush. And sometimes that really gets to Josh Allen a lot of the times, because you don't know where that fourth guy is coming from, if he's coming from anywhere. A lot of times with Josh, whether the guy's sitting on the edge or he's sitting in the middle, those guys will pop out and just spy him, right? So
Yeah.
3-man rush is something across all different personnel groupings to keep in mind. But first and second down, and really something we're going to talk about later even more, pre-snap indicators, the shifts, the motions, incredibly important on first and second down versus the base defense of the Patriots, so that they can differentiate cover 1 versus cover 3, man versus zone. Everyone knows that's really the good offenses nowadays, Anthony, are doing that, right? Those pre-snap indicators.
Yeah, you have to. In today's NFL, where the passing game reigns key, and there are now so many ways for offenses, whether it's by alignment, whether it's with motion, whether it's personnel, there's so many ways for an offense to figure out what you are doing defensively. So being able to hide some of that, and, you know, no pun intended, and all jokes aside, being able to disguise your coverage is a very important thing in today's NFL. And, you know, to tie it into the Bills, it's one of the reasons the Buffalo Bills defense has been so successful since McDermott took over, is because of the ability of Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer to be able to show different looks pre-snap and then be able to execute with quality on the post-snap, despite what kind of alignment they have in the pre-snap. Their ability to look in a 2-high shell pre-snap, but then spin down to a single high look to be able to make tackles from depth, to be able to function in different coverage patterns and run fits from depth and from different looks. And New England's going to want to do that as well. They're going to want to be able to hide some of that. And, you know, especially when you've got a team that, you know, really focuses on those single high looks. You know, New England, 65% of the time they're in single high looks. That is the most in the entire NFL. But there's a big difference between single high cover 1, single high cover 3. So being able to try to identify that is something that offenses want to do, but being able to hide that from the offense is something that New England's going to aim, because neither team is trying to tip their hand, while each team at the same time is trying to take advantage of the other and figuring out what they're trying to do pre-snap in order to be able to make it easier post-snap.
Yeah, and that's so important, like Anthony said, because, you know, where Josh starts his reads, his progress, his process, it depends on whether it's man or zone, whether it's 1 versus 2 high. Like, that is incredibly important to the processing speed of a quarterback, knowing what coverage you're in, but knowing exactly whether it's zone versus man or 1 versus 2 high. So that pre to post snap processing is incredibly important. And one way to make it quicker for your quarterback, make it easier for a quarterback, are those pre-snap movement shifts. And the Bills are more of a shift team than a motion team, but as we'll talk about later, it was different in week 16. So here are the money downs. You have 3rd and 1 to 3, which is 3rd and short, 3rd and medium, which is 3rd and 4 to 6, and then 3rd and 7 to 10 is the 3rd and long. And then there's also 3rd and 11 plus, which there aren't many plays to really, you know, get those first downs, but these are the money downs here. Short, medium, and long. And something that stood out to me, and was obviously there's still a heavy man coverage team, but as you can see, they do sprinkle in some 3-man rushes 39% of the time on 3rd and 1 to 3, which is interesting given the fact that it's more of a run down, but you know, and they're still kind of just only rushing 3. So that's kind of surprising, I thought. And then just the middle of the field coverages on 3rd and medium, a lot of man coverage. They're number 7 there in man coverage, but also middle of the field close. So they're obviously sprinkling in some of those cover 3 type looks on 3rd and medium, which is important for the Bills, because a lot of times they like to run those, you know, those that mesh concept that's kind of like a man and zone beater, but where Josh's eyes start depends on those pre-snap indicators. And you can see 3rd and medium and 3rd and long, they kind of vary their defensive backs and their secondary. Sometimes they bump up into a dime type look, right?
Yeah, they like to hit those looks with their defensive backs, and it makes sense given the makeup of this unit. You know, Jalen Mills having COVID and having to miss this game is a big thing, but you look at that secondary with Devin McCourty and Adrian Phillips and Kyle Duggar and Miles Bryant and JC Jackson, and the variability you have in that defensive back grouping is tremendously important for them. You know, being able to have a Kyle Duggar or an Adrian Phillips who can drop deep and play, you know, in a 2-high functionality, but who can also succeed highly, especially in the case of Phillips. He's almost just like a really big linebacker who can, or a really big safety who can function like a smaller quasi linebacker, but also function as a safety. So being able to have that versatility is something that Belichick loves, because it's harder to identify what his defense is going to do because you don't necessarily have those mismatches on offense, given the personality and the personnel that the defense has and the variability you can have with that personnel. So yeah, they built that defense like that, and they take advantage of it with their alignments, trying to throw 5 and 6 DBs on the field as much as they can.
Right. And so now here are the money downs in the red zone. So as I said, more times than not, when they're playing the Bills, they're going to be in that 2-4-5, right? So in the red zone, if you see them switch to a 3-3-5, which more times than not they do, as you can see, third and short, medium, and long, they're almost always in 3-3-5, and near top 3 in percentage when it comes to that. And that's how they want to stop the run in the red zone. And you'll see it a lot of times because they have some of the best interior defensive linemen at 2 gapping. You know, those guys that can just stack an offensive lineman, and then they're just peeking their helmets in and out of the gaps and waiting for that running back to declare what entry point he's going into, what hole he's going to hit, and then they're shedding. And especially against, you know, the type of guy and center that they have, that the Bills have in Mitch Morse, he has a hard time with Davin Godchall. Christian Barmore had a really good game against him last time with his length and size. Lawrence Guy is one of the better run defenders in the league. So when they want to stop the run against the Bills, and this is not just in the red zone, if you see 3 linemen and you see a 5-man surface, so 3 defensive linemen in 3-point stances, and then you're going to have like a high tower or KVN on the edge in a 5-man surface, more times than not, they're expecting run, but that's what the Bills have to do. Get them in those personnel groupings, but pass out of them. That's how they have to kind of counteract these tendencies. But did anything stand out personnel-wise here in the red zone aside from that, Anthony? I mean, the one thing that stood out to me is if you look at 3rd and short, 3rd and 1 to 3 in the red zone, not just the personnel grouping, but the zone coverage. They shift away from that man coverage, and they use zone coverage half the time, which is big for a team that is heavily dependent on man coverage.
Yeah, that's a really interesting stat. You know, Belichick, when push comes to shove, you know, you mentioned it in a couple slides before, like on those money downs, he likes to go man coverage. That's what he wants to do. He wants to reroute. He wants to get physical. And seeing that in the low red zone area that they're shifting to that zone coverage is a really interesting piece. And I guess you could make a case for it. You know, you're still trying to honor the pass and, you know, clog up those lanes, squeeze the windows, use the end zone as an extra defender along with the sidelines and everything like that. Appreciate you, Eric. Thank you very much. Yeah, I also hope Josh isn't too stiff in this one. I hope he's nice and loose and feeling good. And I hope he hasn't taken the recommendation of Bart Scott, who is just having a weird year as a commentator and analyst. I know 2 things. He likes Viagra and he hates Hollywood Brown for the Ravens. Right. Interesting year for Bart Scott. But yeah, really interesting thing to note. And that's also a key thing, you know, right, for actual game preparation, Eric. Like if you're going in and you're thinking like, okay, here's where we are in the red zone. What are the tendencies of our opponent? And are they breaking tendency to go into this area? Okay, here's what they do. Here's how we attack it. That's where all this comes into play, right? Like what we're going over in this episode, and when you've broken down so far, is for fan consumption, for everybody to be like, okay, this is what I can look out for. This is how my team is going to do against this opponent. This is what this opponent's going to do against my team. But for actual on field, this is what scouts do. This is what teams put together. This is what matters. So that way you can start to build and craft your game plan, like you said with that first slide, and be able to curate your game plan based on the tendencies that you're seeing on tape and with the metrics. So it's hugely important to be able to identify things like that.
Right, yeah, you curate your game plan and say, hey, okay, they like to play zone on 3rd and 1 to 3. 50% of the time, they're going to play zone coverage in the red zone. Well, okay, I got to have a good mix of man and zone beater concepts if we're going to pass in that area. And then you get in the game, and then you see the coaches after that first red zone drive, you see them on the Microsoft Surface saying like, you know, man, they went to man coverage on that play. We were expecting zone. We had zone beaters. Like, so that's the chess match. That's what you're seeing teams do, drive to drive, play to play, you know, half to half. That's the adjustments that the staff is making to the original game plan. So moving on, let's go from the top now. Let's get
real quick. I'm sorry. I want to bring up a comment from John, $5 donation. John, thank you so much. One of the biggest supporters we have. Thank you so much. And I also love the comment. So John says, guys, great video, but the data is wrong. Pats aren't 3-3-5 in the red zone. They are 3-3-5-8. You forgot to include the rest.
No,
well done,
wow,
John.
Zinger, John. I like it. Bringing the comedy to this show.
Starting early.
That's great. Yeah. So back to the Patriots defense here. Appreciate it, John. You're the best, man. As I said a couple times already, pre-snap indicators, pre-snap motion, it's a big thing. But it hasn't been for the Bills this year, Anthony. The Bills motion only 36% of the time overall this year. But in that last matchup, in that Week 16 matchup against the Patriots, they motioned 62% of the time. And it was a revelation for Josh Allen. In that game, when the Bills motion, anytime they shift or motion, Allen completed 73.3% of his passes. He had 210 yards and 11.35 EPA, which was number one for the week by over 3 points over Mahomes. So it helped Josh Allen. And that's something that I know a lot of fans have been saying, like, they need to do more of it. They need to do more of it. I agree, they do. But there's also a give and take when it comes to motion and shifting all that much, because when you do that as an offense, it puts a burden on your quarterback and the offensive line, because that changes the structure of the defense as well, right, Anth? And that can change pass protections. That could change tendencies that they saw on a film. So a lot of different things can really screw up the quarterback, the offensive line, when you have an offensive line that's continuously shifting across the board and not settled in over the course of the year. That motion can actually hurt your offense more than help it.
Yeah, it's a layer of offense that complicates things for the defense, right? But it also, like you said, it complicates things for your offense. You're not just coming out and running, okay, here we go, we're in a 2-by-2. That's what it is. It is what it is. Let's snap the ball and let's make my reads. When you are adding, you see that all the time. How much do you see in games, right, where a quarterback will motion his guy and then he makes an adjustment off that? He has to reset his tight end, or he has to make an adjustment for his running back, or you see the offensive linemen start to communicate, because when you use that pre-snap motion on the offense, it's nice for the offense if you can, use it to identify what the defense is doing. But also, once you identify that, you may have to adjust. Okay, we're realizing here's what they're going to do. They're going to run this blitz, or this is the coverage they're running, or this is who's coming, this is who's dropping. Where's the mic? You have to adjust your offensive line, adjust your personnel on the offense. You have to answer what you're seeing on the defense, and that leads to more, again, complication, because you're adjusting, you are shifting. So it's not just a simple like, yeah, why doesn't everybody run motion? It's not the easiest thing in the world, because you have to then adjust yourself and correct for what you're seeing in front of you.
Absolutely. And the final thing from that Week 16 matchup, I brought this up, the 3-man rushes, and they did it 21% of the time versus Josh Allen. Allen completed 60% of those passes for 82 yards. And I bring that up because I forget which player said it today, but from the Patriots or today or yesterday, that they got to obviously contain Josh Allen, keep him in the pocket. And my response was, that was kind of your plan last game, and he still torched you. He dropped some of the biggest dimes. In my opinion, it was his best game as a pro from the pocket, and on top of obviously extended plays and whatnot. But he was just dropping dimes left to right on the field. So 3-man rushes is a thing. And what the Patriots like to do is they'll show, 4 or 5 guys near the line of scrimmage, and they'll show a 4th guy coming, but then that guy will pop out. He'll kind of bluff that rush, bluff that blitz, then pop out underneath, kind of be a rat player, a spy player on Josh. And it's something that Josh has always had to deal with, and especially when they play the Patriots, right, Ant?
Yeah, they're not going to make it easy on you. They want to make you guess. They want to try and get certain matchups. And, it was Judon. I was trying to find the exact quote in my notes, but it was Judon who said it yesterday, that they have to, contain Josh Allen, make him beat him with his arm, not allow him to use those legs type of things, which again makes sense with something we talked about after the Bills-Patriots game when we did the film, when we talked about how the Patriots use more contained rushes and more muddled rushes. You could tell that they weren't really going after Allen as much as they were trying to just pen him in and keep him in the pocket. Appreciate you, GC. Thank you so much for the donation. And again, when it comes to those rushes, the Patriots are usually on the front end.
This is a good one. Look at this. This is a good one.
That's funny. That's a real good one. Nice tie-in, Dobbs. Nice tie-in, Dobbs. Well done. Dobbs said they're all rats, Eric. That's really good. That took me out of my headspace there.
Sorry.
Was good. No, you're good. But the Patriots are usually... Oh, thank you for the donation, Charles. Man, this is just like the post-game show. We always stop and get interrupted every time, but we love this. This is so awesome. Thank you. To get back to that point, you don't want to make it easy. You don't want to let everybody know, okay, these 3 guys are rushing, these 4 guys are rushing, so on and so forth. And what's also nice too, right? Some of the clips that I'm going to show from what Miami did against the Patriots offense, if you show 5 or 6 guys around the line, but you still only rush 3 and drop 8 because you were disguising those looks up front and playing those mind games. You can almost create free runners, even though you're only rushing 3 against 5, or maybe even 3 against 6, or you get adjustments from the offense, right? If you've got 6 guys on the defensive line, or 7, or maybe even 8, all of a sudden the quarterback's got to make his adjustment and think, okay, we got to max protect. Let me keep my tight end in, make sure my running back knows his assignment. And then all of a sudden, if you drop out of that, you only rush 3. Now you've got 8 men in coverage. You're only rushing 3 against an offense that's max protecting. Now the quarterback's windows are squeezed. You don't have as many options to throw to, in addition to be able to just creating opportunities for you to get rushers free or in good advantages, in good number situations, because of you creating those looks and playing mind games, but then doing something else. It's all part of that idea of making the offense think you're doing something and then doing the opposite. In today's NFL, that's huge because it's so easy to identify things.
Right. And so we're going to shift gears now. We're going to go into the film. And so now we went into the analytics and tendencies and whatnot of the Patriots defense. But when I was watching back that Week 16 matchup, and obviously McKenzie was running those crossers and running wild with no help, which we'll get to, I noticed that it came from a certain formation. And then so then we watched the Finns game this past week, and I started going through all the Patriots games over the year. I want to say I got to 7 or 8 games. And I noticed that a lot of these big plays came out of a bunch set, right? A trips bunch set, regardless of the personnel. So I wanted to take a look at that. So I looked at some of the analytics. I had our boy Max look into some of the analytics on that. And so you can see bunch right, bunch left. The Patriots allow 12.7 yards per attempt against bunch right sets. And that's well above the league average. And you even can see up top, twin right, actually, they allow a pretty big yards per attempt as well. And we're going to get into some of that film and why that happens. And, a lot of the numbers may be skewed because they were earlier in the year, but you're going to see that it wasn't just bunch right, bunch left, that the teams were attacking the Patriots in, as did the Bills in Week 16. So you can see that's one area that they've kind of been weak at. And if we look at the situations, so you got the formation, and we saw some of the plays on film, and you will here in a little bit. Then you got to look at what down and distances did those plays come on. They came on the money downs, right? They came on 3rd and 4th down. On 3rd and 4th down, bunch sets versus the Patriots produced 17 for 22 completions, 246 yards, and the average for that down and distance was about 4.7 yards ago. So right around that 3rd and medium, almost getting into that 3rd and long situation. So that is something to keep an eye on, and I'll try to point it out as we go through some of this film, the down and distance for that particular play. Because, again, teams attacked on money downs, as did the Bills in Week 16, as you will see. So let's get to the first play here. Early in the year, Dolphins, Patriots, and I want you to keep an eye on as we go through these bunch sets. Here's bunch left. Keep an eye on whether the posture, obviously, of the defensive backs, where their eyes are looking. Are they looking at their man? Are they looking at the quarterback? But also the levels to them. As I have it outlined there, it's man-to-man coverage on this play in the low red zone. But you can see there's a point guy right on the tight end, Gesicki, and then you can see that it's almost like a diamond. The other two guys are a few yards off. And watch what happens. This is man-to-man coverage, right? Here's Jalen Waddle. He motions. That guy motions with him. Obvious man coverage. And what do? They pivot him back to the boundary, a little play-action fake, and they hit him on the rollout for the touchdown here. That's easy. Man-to-man coverage, that's an easy pick-type play out of that bunch set. So we go forward to the Texans game. They played a little different. You can see that the levels are a little different. The outside guy and inside guys of the bunch set on defense are kind of up near the line of scrimmage. You have the guy that's on the point guy off the line of scrimmage there. It's a little different. It's not quite a diamond up near the bunch. And this is what they're doing on defense here. So the point man is man-to-man, and the other two guys, J.C. Jackson and I believe, I'm not sure who that is, Bryant inside. No, 31, that's Jones. They're pattern matching. So 1 and 3, receiver 1 and 3, the most outside guy, and the inner guy, they're switch releasing. And so the Patriots switch release. J.C. Jackson picks up the flat, and then the number 1 that's coming inside is picked up by Jones. It's pattern matched really well until Davis Mills extends the play, and that number 3 receiver that went to the flats goes up the sideline and mosses J.C. Jackson on this play. And it's a big play. Again, a bunch right, big yards per attempt, 12.7 yards per attempt to bunch right. Big play in this game, and that wasn't the only time. So later in the game, Ant trips bunch to the right. You see the levels are pretty much the same. Well, okay, maybe it's the same coverage, right? Well, that's fine. We'll let J.C. Jackson and we'll let Jones pick up the 1 and 3 receivers. Well, now guess what? We're gonna attack with the diamond guy right at the line of scrimmage. We're gonna attack with this guy on a post route. And watch what they do with him. Watch this route. Watch that shake. You see him take advantage of Jawan Williams, a name to keep an eye on. If Jalen Mills isn't able to go this week, look at where Mills' eyes go as that receiver makes that move. He's looking at the quarterback. He's toasted. Mills hits him for a big play down the sideline. Again, bunch right. So keep that in mind when we talk about this weekend, Jalen Mills' availability. So 3rd and 3 situation on this play. Money down later in the game. Look at the levels of the DBs. You get Miles Bryant. You guys remember him. He's the outermost defensive back to the bottom of the screen. You see them in that little diamond look versus a bunch set. And the Patriots are even trying to help these guys and almost have a 4-on-3 versus the bunch and have Judon, try to run a little interference. But obviously that takes him out from being a pass rusher. So that's actually a win. So watch the outermost receiver versus Bryant. Tell me, Bills fans, does this play look familiar over the middle? Bryant has to work over the top of that coverage and everyone. And here comes the strike over the middle to 15 Conley. And then you have a big play, Anthony. I mean, this is almost like deja vu, right? With Bryant and McKenzie.
I've never seen Isaiah McKenzie run that type of route against Miles Bryant. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he did that a ton. The Bills spammed that deep that deep crosser from Isaiah McKenzie in week 16 against the Patriots. And it's because of the Patriots running those single high looks. Those deep crossers and those deep overs are good against single high looks in cover 3, zone, but especially in those cover 1 man scenarios. And Bryant, because of his alignment and because of the play call here, he's already kind of not set up for failure, but he's not in an advantageous spot whatsoever to be able to get to this. And then even more so, given his skill set, you highlighted him right there. He's got a lot of ground to cover on a person who has the angle and who has the leverage on him. He's not able to get over the top. He's not able to close that down. He doesn't really have the recovery speed to make that play. And it's a good throw by Mills. Highlighted Judon, and I think that was Van Noy as well. He gets it right in between the two of them to his receiver coming across the middle. And this is the danger, right? When you try to play sets like this, you've highlighted these bunch formations in just this Texans game alone, that the Texans have done different things out of those bunch sets and those formations. And you see the Patriots, this is why football is so beautiful. The Patriots playing that chess match and thinking like, okay, should we change our levels? Okay, do we go man? Okay, should we pattern match? Okay, what kind of zone should we go with? All right, do we think they're running the same thing again? And then the Texans are doing that same thing. Hey, let's show them that same look based on the coverage they ran. Or you know what? Let's show this alignment. I think they're going to play it like this. When they do, hit your post corner, hit that 7 route, it's going to be open. So that's where the chess match starts to happen. And if you guess wrong, or even if you guess right, but your player isn't able to execute like Miles Bryant in that scenario, it's a win for the offense.
Yeah, and here's another win for the offense against the Patriots out of a bunch set. Low red zone, Titans versus Patriots. And look at the levels of the DBs of the Patriots, pretty much sitting at the goal line. Looks like man coverage. And just watch what they do. This is a play that, in one Super Bowl, they defended this play quite well. Here, they don't have Malcolm Butler, and you see that wide receiver catch it and get in to the end zone there. Again, this one's bunch left, but these are the issues that these bunch sets can really create for a team that plays as much man coverage as the Patriots. And it's one of the formations. The bunch set is one of those formations as a defensive coordinator. You got to have multiple checks in a game. You got to have different assets and resources and coverages that you can go to, because it's one of the most popular sets, especially when teams want to play man coverage, because there's just so many natural pick routes out of this, as you'll see here. So now look at the levels of the defensive backs there. It's a little different here, right? And they motion to this. They motion to this play right here, or this formation here. And the down and distance is 3rd and 5. So 3rd and medium here. So they motion to this. And you're going to see Bryant, again, become that innermost DB right here. And he's off the line of scrimmage, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 yards. And that's usually because, well, more times than not, as we saw in that Bills game, you're going to just take that number 3 out wide right here and get that
Mhm.
easy first down. It's man coverage. So they want to prevent that. Watch what they do here versus Bryant. So the innermost receiver, the number 3 receiver, releases inside. This is very reminiscent of like a Beasley route. Right here, he's in a two-way.
Mhm.
He's got a two-way go on this guy. He's squared up, but there is a decent cushion, obviously, between the two players. Watch the double move that he puts on Bryant here. But
Filthy.
unfortunately, it goes incomplete. So another thing,
Oh.
man coverage, attack the mismatch, and don't just use the formation. Use those double moves. Take that inside receiver right there, give him that two-way go, make Bryant think that you're just going left or right here, and then just take it deep versus that single high look. But you just got to execute. These are the type of chess match games
Oh.
that Dable needs to play here. So, and let's get to the Bills matchup versus
Mm.
the Patriots here. So obviously, these bunch sets, especially versus man coverage, the defense doesn't want to lose leverage. So you hear us talk about banjo or switches,
Mm.
banjo coverages, where basically, as we saw in that one Patriots clip where they banjoed, they just
Mhm.
switched, as the receiver switch release. Well, here you got Stephon Diggs to the top of the screen, the outermost receiver, and obviously they want to protect leverage against him. They don't want him winning outside, so they have a corner out wide, Jalen Mills. They don't want him winning inside on those easy leverage rub plays over the middle like we've seen several times already. So they have inside leverage with Devin McCourty, the deep safety here. And the Bills uncover this, as I said, by using pre-snap motion, pre-snap indicators. That was pretty easy.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, on this third down and long, Josh swings it quickly out wide to Singletary to the bottom of the screen. He liked the matchup versus KVN, who is peeling right here, but he's not able to pick it up. But I want you to kind of take your eyes away from that and where the ball is going. I want you to see what's happening as Diggs is running the mesh concept with Sanders over the middle. What they're doing. McCourty is coming down and still playing on Diggs, but they also have help deep, right, Ant? They have a slice on Diggs, the crosser. So that's something to keep an eye on. Teams do that all the time. They don't want to lose leverage off the bat, so they have in and out leverage with Mills and McCourty, but they also don't want to lose on the crosser, and they don't want McCourty to get picked off, so they have a slicer, that deep safety, coming down versus Diggs, Ant.
Yeah, and this is also where, that slice works. I feel like people also, you might see the clip and be like, yeah, but the safety has to come from such depth. But think of the down and distance, right, Eric? That's something
Right,
you mentioned at the beginning, tendencies in certain down and distance.
right.
You marked it right there. When Phillips is coming down, if he's slicing to impact Diggs, if Diggs does get this ball, the idea is that Phillips is coming up and making that tackle and tackling him short. So
Yeah,
it's the Patriots using a formation and a coverage call on the back end for two reasons. One, in order to limit the effectiveness of the Bills' best offensive weapon in Stephon Diggs. Well, not including Josh Allen. But two, they're able to use that because of the down and distance. And they're able to show that look with Phillips, that deep. And he's able to come up and slice because of the third down and long and distance.
right.
You aren't able to run this play on defense with a safety from that depth if you're 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4, or 3rd and short, because if you get that quick hitter right away, you're going to get beat. So this is another piece of, again, tying it all in, of running something because of what you think the offense is going to do, but also being able to use the down and distance to your favor in order to be able to impact the offense.
Right. So let's look at this portion of the game. It's 17-7 here. 1st and 10 play, ball on the 20-yard line. This is start of the third quarter in that Week 16 matchup. So this is when the Bills eventually said, "Oh, okay, you guys are just straight up ignoring McKenzie now. You're not even gonna play him." So they're like, "Okay, let's take a look at it on 1st down." They motion McKenzie into that bunch set again, bunch right here. And you don't see anyone traveling with him. In fact, it's pretty obvious that it's probably going to be some type of zone coverage. And I'll tell you right off the bat, it ends up being some type of cover three
Spoiler.
cover 3 coverage here. And as I said when we broke this play down, I believe in the film room, they pretty much ignore McKenzie out here to the flats. This is Bryant right here. Everyone's dropping out right here into their areas. Bryant is the flats defender. He should be widening with McKenzie on this play. He doesn't. He sticks on the numbers, and Josh, although he's on the left hash, he's able to make that throw out wide to McKenzie. It's perfectly placed. McKenzie gets up the field, and it's a really good gain. Bunch right, almost the 1st down on that play. So we move forward into the game, and this is let me see. Let me get back to the beginning. Another 1st down call here, 2nd down call. So still base offense. 1st and 2nd down is the base offense here. Ball on the 36-yard line. So now McKenzie's to the bottom. motions across. No one's coming with him. Looks like a single high type look. Obviously, it's probably not man coverage. Why? This is Hightower right here. He's not going to be covering McKenzie, and just look at his leverage. He's probably not covering McKenzie. You have Bryant up on Kumaro. Mills is the outermost DB, so it's probably not man coverage. The pre-snap indicator, that motion by McKenzie, showed that it was probably some type of zone coverage. It indeed ends up being a zone coverage. You see everyone drop out here into a too high single look, especially this corner dropping out. Well, guess what? McKenzie's wide open in the flats.
Disrespectful. They just won't cover him.
No, they're gonna play high to low. Okay, I get it. Well, guess what? We're gonna give it to McKenzie, and guess what? He's gonna get us a first down, which he does here. That's the added element that McKenzie brings, as we saw in this game. And so,
yeah,
the Patriots are like, okay. We got the bunch left here. We got now, as we pointed out earlier in this breakdown, look at the levels of these guys. You got Mills, the outermost DB, on Sanders. J.C. Jackson's on Kumaro because Diggs is not in the game, so he's on the X receiver here, basically. And then you have Bryant off coverage again versus McKenzie. It looks like it's probably their man coverage based on film we actually just saw just a few moments ago. Well, Josh should immediately throw it to McKenzie right there. He's got the leverage. He's got the cushion from Bryant. He's wide open. He doesn't. He tries pushing it to, I don't know, Sanders or Kumaro down the field, and ends up having this one batted down as his hands coming forward. It's ruled incomplete, I believe. But he should have hit McKenzie in the flats there, right?
Yeah, he had him right away. It was another example of, almost like a no cover zone type of action there, like we saw on this on the previous couple plays. And again, it's something that, it's the theme of it. So we're going to keep saying it again and kind of, pointing out similar things, but it's the effect you can have when you run this type of formation and set on offense versus what the Patriots are trying to do defensively. And, in this instance, Josh isn't perfect and isn't spot on like he was for a good majority of this game, especially in the second half against New England. But it shows where alignment can take advantage. Not alignment.
Right.
Not great with my grammar today, but alignment can take advantage of a certain call or coverage. And then combined, obviously, with the player piece, you just showed several plays ago how Mills and McCourty were bracketing Diggs on that motion, and it identifies. And then when Diggs actually runs that drag across the middle, McCourty takes him. You got Phillips slicing. So you have that extra level and layer of impact that Stephon Diggs can have. So now if you're running these bunch sets, this one doesn't have Diggs in it. But if you're running those bunch sets, now all of a sudden you have an extra threat. And in this one, Diggs, again, isn't in it. You just got Manny, Kumaro, and McKenzie. But look how much space Isaiah McKenzie has. Look where the corner is. It would have been nice if Josh just saw this right away, got it to him at potential yards after catch opportunity, based on how the Patriots are playing that coverage. Like, they're going with Manny Sands. They have a guy on Kumaro. Kumaro eventually kind of comes open a little later, but McKenzie is the read right away like he was on the previous couple plays, because there's just nobody in that zone and they're not showing him the respect.
Right. And it was longer than the change. It was like 2nd and 12. And Josh trying to look down the field when, again, take what they give you, which he did for most of this game, especially early. So fast forward with the Bills up 20 to 14, 3rd and 2 here, right at the end of the third quarter. This is another one of those plays. Now look at the levels of the DBs on this play. I mean, it's showing as man coverage. Jackson is on Diggs, the outermost receiver. Mills pressed up on the point guy. Sanders, Bryant off coverage on McKenzie. And yes, it shows exactly like man coverage. They don't switch. These guys do not switch here. McKenzie gets the rub. And guess what? The Bills have a first down. They're making Bryant work over the top on these bunch sets, and they made him work over the top on those crossing routes, as you'll see here in a few plays. So here's one of those plays I talked about at the top. And, if you're not stealing signals, you're not trying. All right. This is the same exact play out of the bunch right formation to the top of the screen that we saw when Kumaro fell. Josh didn't take McKenzie in the flats. It's the same flood type stick concept to the top of the screen. Watch the defenders of the Patriots here, but more importantly, watch the signals from Devin McCourty right here, the safety, as he's dropping out and he sees that bunch set come out. You see even Bryant kind of letting these guys out there know they're hitting the thigh boards. And what they end up doing is drop out into a cover 3 look. They said, you know what, we're not going to get beat by this man beater concept anymore. We're going to drop out in the cover 3. And there you see it right there. And it's just so funny. Again, Josh should take McKenzie in the flats. But he's looking down the field on 2nd and 10, and he wants to hit Kumaro on this little flood. This is a clearing route, and this little flood stick concept right here. But I understand why he doesn't throw it here. This is Miles Bryant. As we'll see later, when Diggs catches it against the Jets, he has a linebacker on him. So I understand that. And the spacing isn't incredibly horrible with the distance that Josh has to make this throw from right around the 15 to probably right around the 35. So I understand why he doesn't initially just throw this and let it rip, but he ends up throwing it away. But as you can see, the Patriots are like, all right, we're just going to drop into cover 3. We're going to defend the bunch right here with cover 3. Well, later in the game, money down, right? Money down here. You have 3rd and 10. Bills up 26-21, guys. Ball on the 25-yard line, 7:26 on the clock. McKenzie's motioning and getting out to his alignment right here. And guess who fouls him? I mean, number 41. And you can see McKenzie. McKenzie's like spitting on his gloves. He's like, oh, this is me. This is me. He's like, this is coming to me. He's like, look who's coming over here. Look, he lets Josh know, like, look over here. Look who's coming. Yeah. This guy's actually on me.
My man, look at this again.
Yeah. So they motion to the bunch set, and now we have Knox involved on this one. It's tighter to the line of scrimmage, but you have Bryant out wide on McKenzie. Jackson obviously locked up on Diggs as a point man. Duggar is in there to cover Knox as he typically is. You have inside help, inside leverage for Diggs by McCourty right here. So they have it covered, very similar to early in the game. Well, watch the release by Diggs right here and how it really disrupts the coverage of the Patriots here. So they release very similarly right there. You see McKenzie kind of follow right behind him. Well, that makes McCourty kind of center line it and kind of become that robber over the middle. Well, guess what? If that's Diggs come over the middle, he's got to stay with him. And they can't slice it because they have a robber, and this single high safety cannot slice that. There's just no way. They basically have a deep middle of the field wide open. Well, that means Bryant is in chase mode, right? That means he's got to chase McKenzie. He doesn't have that speed. And Josh hits him for a first down on 3rd and long, man. Just beautiful stuff. Beautiful throw from Josh Allen. A great read from top to bottom from Josh Allen and Brian Daboll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. It's another, again, in this theme of, what you've been showing. It's taking advantage of what you're seeing and understanding a tendency, and then having a play call combined with the execution to take advantage of that. And again, like we've continued to highlight here, it's the personnel and the formation on the offense. And this time, here's another really good example. You called out how the Patriots defense has to react to Stephon Diggs. Here's another good example of having a high-profile elite player influences that defense and that coverage even more, and it allows for more one-on-one opportunities. And when you discover a one-on-one opportunity like the Bills did in this game, when you discover a one-on-one opportunity that you have an advantage in, like the Bills identified here, McKenzie versus Miles Bryant, and boom, actually that's great, exactly where you highlighted there. You got Duggar flowing to the left, you've got McCourty and JC Jackson more keeping an eye on Stephon Diggs, and your last arrow there is on poor Miles Bryant, who is trailing Isaiah McKenzie. And you said it. It's, and kudos to Miles Bryant. He's had a solid year. He had that pass breakup on 4th down on the Monday night game where he peeled off his man and he won the game for the Pats. But he's not built or suited to cover guys with the speed and burst like Isaiah McKenzie. So the Bills take advantage of the Patriots defense with their formation, and they also take advantage of it by having a star player in Stephon Diggs, who the Patriots have to honor. And they get a mismatch. They identified it in the second half, and they spammed it and went after it.
Right. And so now the film continues, right? After the Bills matchup, you're going to see how, the Jags try to challenge with the bunch right set here. So look at the DB's levels. And obviously you see the outermost cornerback is several yards off the bunch. And this is Austin. So this is their like McKenzie right there. So I'm sure they're thinking like, hey, he's probably running some type of crosser. So we're going to keep this DB offense off coverage right here. But watch how this play unfolds. Lawrence targets the point guy. I think it's Marvin Jones, who is matched up versus JC Jackson. As you saw that in that Texans game, the point guy took it to the corner on one of their the biggest plays of the year, surrender. Well, JC Jackson's in coverage here. It's not Juwan Williams, and he's running to the corner. Well, that's covered up. But I want you to also pay attention to the crossing route. It's by the innermost guy. Well, he's coming out here. Well, guess what? The Pats are making sure from this bunch right formation they have a guy underneath, and they even have that slice from the safety, as we've talked about in the last couple of plays. So that's how they adjusted on this play. And where the quarterback needs to go here is on this pivot route by the receiver
Oh,
right here. This is the
yeah.
pivot route, and the Bills actually ran a very similar play. The ball didn't go out there because of the way the coverage unfolded last week, but you can see that's the guy he needs to go to. That pivot route with that corner and such off coverage, the ball should go to him right at the sticks on 3rd and short. Instead, Lawrence goes for the home run ball. It goes incomplete. So from the time the Bills played the Patriots, that was, you can see now they're starting to make adjustments. Okay, so this one's really cool. Okay, let me get to the down and distance. So 3rd and 4th situation, Jags are down 21-3 here. So this is a money down situation. 3rd and medium. You see the motion by Austin. Again, they're a McKenzie type player. They're a man-to-man type speed guy. Bryant's going with him when, I mean, pre-snap indications tell us what? That's probably man coverage. Even the way they kind of align and level out, it looks like it's man coverage. But as the ball snapped, watch the rotation by the defense. They drop out into basically what looks like to be a cover 2, Tampa 2 type look, 2 high safeties. And so they drop out into zone coverage. And that's okay. You know, that just means that Lawrence has to hit the guy that is underneath. And as you saw what happened to McKenzie, when that corner drops out, as this guy runs that slot fade, you know, you get a little room underneath on that pivot route again. You're seeing Chanel kind of pivot like that right at the marker, right at the first down marker. Lawrence gets it to him. So these are the type high-low reads, the pre-snap, the post-snap reads that Josh Allen has to really, you know, get into. And when we're talking about these bunch sets, if you flash back to the Dolphins game, you can see, like, what can the Bills do? You ask yourself, what can the Bills do when teams play cover 3? Well, you saw them hit the flats. Well, you can also see on this mesh concept. So you got these 2 crossers right here, and then you just got Beasley sitting in the middle of the field right there. You know, it's Josh going through his reads, and he does. He looks to the bottom of the screen, 1, 2, and then 3, and then 4 right there. You know, as these linebackers widen right here, middle of the field wide open versus cover 3. So the Bills have, Brian Dable has answers versus zone coverage if the bunch formation, which, as I said, is primarily used as a man coverage beater. Here's a man coverage beater. Bunch set, bunch left, Diggs the outermost receiver. Pre-snap indication on this play showed Singletary coming inside with a safety on 3rd and 4 against the Falcons. So here comes Singletary back into the formation. Safety is with him, coming up near the line of scrimmage. Looks like man coverage. Look at the levels of the DBs to the top of the screen. All their eyes are on the defenders, on the offensive receivers. Looks like man coverage to me. And it is. And what do? They run that mesh concept. That means Josh, with man coverage, has to find his man beater concept. That's right here. That's Stephon Diggs. Now he has to do something a little special with the unblocked defender coming off the edge, make him miss with a pump fake, but he gets to his guy, his second read here, Stephon Diggs, and now what? They got a first down on after that 3rd down, so they convert a first down there. Well, Anthony, I mean, we're talking about the passing game, and out of these bunch sets, well, you can throw different personnel groupings when you get into the red zone, when you get into the low red zone, but you also got to remember, you have a quarterback, you have the wild horse, and on these out of these bunch sets, the Bills love to not just pass it, but they love to run in that pin and pull, right?
Oh, they love running the pin and pull out of the bunch. You and I love the pin and pull. We love how it works to the advantage of our boy Mitch Morse. And what's really nice about this one, right? So if you've started to really run bunches and pass plays out of this, and the defense is getting beat in man, or they've decided to, like, okay, we can't come up and play this with man. We got to play off a little bit, right? Look how if you leave it frozen right there, how much off coverage from that bunch formation AJ Terrell is, number 34 is, and Deion Jones, number 45, who's just about to, like, turn his back right there, who's getting blocked. They were off a little more because of what had happened when they played man or they played tighter against bunches earlier. So now they're off a little bit. They're trying to make an adjustment, but again, they're making an adjustment playing the pass. And so now the Bills are like, oh, you thought we were, like, passing out of this? No. We're going to run pin and pull. And the alignment now of the defense works in the favor of that pin and pull. We broke this play down after that Bills-Falcons game, and it was set up perfectly because the Falcons were easily able to get walled off to the outside. The Bills receivers crack down. They set that edge. You have the pullers coming around. So your pin is set on the front side. The pullers come to lead it. and Josh gets a convoy that escorts him clean into the end zone, but it's set up, by what was done earlier in creating tendency and creating looks, and the defense having to adjust to it. Really good, smart play call in that example. And that's an example of, taking advantage of what the team is doing to try and course correct in game for what you're doing, but you course correct their course correction and they don't have an answer because they don't expect it.
Yeah, and here's that 2-point conversion, and you see the motion. It's obvious man coverage. They motion back into the bunch, and you're going to see number 20, the guy that's motioning with Beasley, just gets caught in traffic. If you're going to run man coverage, especially in the low red zone, these bunch formations can really work in the run and pass game.
Yeah.
Here's one from earlier in the year. We talked about the slice, we talked about helping, but we also talk about getting the ball to Diggs on these bunch sets. Here he comes across the middle. The slice is coming down, but he's too far off the play here, and Josh just hits him on 2nd and 10 here. Again, versus to their number one receiver. So there are ways to get to the ball to your premier receiver, Stephon Diggs, out of these bunch sets. Here's 3rd and 5 from the Jets game. So now we're getting to, again, footage just as of late. What are the Bills doing out of these bunch sets? This is what the Patriots are asking themselves. Like, okay, the bunch set is obviously something the Bills want to use against us. Well, what are they doing now? Well, here's one where the shift doesn't really uncover anything man coverage related. It looks like zone coverage. And so on 3rd and medium, well, just hook it up. Diggs hooks it up. Josh hooks him up, and the Bills move the chains. Here's a first down concept. Davis is the outermost receiver. I mean, look at this coverage. You're like, okay, it's obviously not man coverage. It's a too high look. It's eventually drops into quarters coverage. This is that flood stick concept that I told you Josh probably should have hit Kumaro, but I'm glad he didn't because Bryant was sitting there. Well, this is Diggs, the point man, running that stick route to the top of the screen. They drop out in the quarters coverage. This corner has to bail. This safety has to bail with this post right here. So basically you have Diggs and Mosley right here. Diggs gets to the numbers and Josh hits him in stride. And the Bills are moving the ball, but more importantly, getting out of bounds and stopping that clock. So there are ways, depending on what coverage the Bills see, there are answers for Josh Allen. And here's one of the prettier throws from Josh Allen in that final game. We talked about the bunch set. This is bunch left. Dawson Knox is the point guy on this play. He runs a deep corner. We saw it work a couple of times against Patriots earlier in the year. Well, here's Dawson Knox, and you can see the levels and the posture of those DBs on him. Looks like obvious man coverage. Watch the release and physicality by Knox. You see that guy reach out to jam him. Look at the left hand placement as he shoves it. It's perfect placement on the pads right there. That gets him an outside release, a speed release. Then he's off to the corner versus a single high look, and Josh drops a dime, man.
Releases are so important for receivers or anybody coming off the line of scrimmage. I feel like the end of pass plays and the throws always gets talked about, but the releases don't get highlighted enough. I love that you pointed it out. That's a technical piece in the evolution of Dawson Knox's game that he's added this year. And those fine points and those refinement pieces have been so nice to see. And yeah, this was a big one. We talked about it offline. The Bills were struggling at this point against the Jets. This is going into, the part of the game where they struggled in the 2nd and 3rd quarter with the wind and everything, and they were trying to squeeze blood from a stone, and Josh he's got time to throw, and he drops it right in the bucket. This is actually still, despite the fact that Knox gets a good release, this is still pretty good coverage. It has to be a good throw. It's somewhat of a contested catch, so it's not a guarantee. And let's be honest, I feel like how many Bills fans, if Knox dropped the ball there, how many Bills fans would be like, well, of course. So it's a good catch by Knox. It's a good throw. And also, you highlighted the defender there. What do we see on this play? We see some motion. We see Josh bring Zach Moss in. We see the linebacker come inside and line up head over him. What does that start to indicate? Okay, we got some man coverage. Yep. Josh knows. He checks. As soon as he snaps the ball, he looks left. He finds that read because he knows the matchup that he has on Knox. And also, because of that pre-snap alignment and figuring out that they're in man coverage because of the pre-snap motion, look where that safety is. That single high safety is over the top. Josh knows he's got Knox running that 7 route in that corner to the sideline. There's going to be nobody over the top of that. He knows he's got room. Knox gets a good release, and Josh puts it in a spot where the safety can have no impact on it, and Knox is the one who comes down with it. But again, still good coverage from that slot corner. He was right there, but a better throw and a better route. And again, it starts because of the alignment, because of the personnel, and because of some pre-snap motion. All things that we continue to talk about and highlight because it all ties together.
Yeah, and the final two plays out of these bunch right to the bottom of the screen here. You're going to see Singletary get the leverage, and this one's easy. Just swing it to him, and they're able to get in good blocks out front by McKenzie. So there are ways, again, to attack these bunch sets. Here's a 3rd and long. This is the last play. Okay, you're going to defend the bunch here, bunched left to the top of the screen here. The Washington football team does a good job here. They do a good job of slicing with the safety, as I diagrammed. They also have that corner that's over Sanders, staying over the top of him. So they're defending the middle of the field really well here. Well, Josh just looks and he's like, okay, if that safety is slicing, this safety has to kind of get back to the middle of the field. Well, that should mean I should have a one-on-one with Dawson Knox to the bottom of the screen. And what ends up happening here, that safety drifts to the middle of the field. Josh goes to his alert, is basically his goal ball here, and it's good coverage, but it's against a linebacker in Cole Holcomb, who gives up yards upon yards and big plays against big plays to wide receivers and tight ends, and Josh obviously hits him with a touchdown there. It was one of those plays early in the year where, like, okay, this is the type of Dawson Knox that we wanted to see as this year went on. So, as I said, guys, that was pretty in depth when it comes to film study. Those were all bunch formations from the Patriots defense. That's just one piece. We're only a third of the way done. So as I said, take your potty break, get your drink, come back and join us back in the film room. I got one more piece that I want to get to, Ant. But there was a question I saw in the chat room about what do the Bills do with Cole Beasley and McKenzie and that dynamic, especially within the confines of those bunch sets.
It's something that I think is an interesting talking point, because I feel like after the McKenzie game, which I'm calling the second Patriots game, the McKenzie game, I feel like a lot of people, and we saw the comments coming through and people starting to say, put McKenzie in over Beasley. He's better than Beasley. He's the better slot receiver. They are different players. They function differently. They run different routes. They have different skill sets. So I think, not to say that, one is necessarily better than the other, but Cole Beasley is still a very good slot receiver in this NFL. And I think for the people having the questions about the usage and about personnel and, okay, who is going to, it's funny from Tim, you recognize that you're back, being able to see what is going to, I got to stop because the super chat, those are the rules. Thank you very much for the donation. And the comment there, only a third of the way done. Laugh out loud. Y'all are wild. We told you, bathroom breaks, IVs, water. This is going to be an intense one. It's the playoffs, man. And it's the Patriots. It's
Let's go.
But to go to to really finalize that point with McKenzie and Sanders and Beasley and all these guys, I think a lot of it is going to come down to certain matchups and assignments. I think they're going to have play packages built in for these guys. They're not all completely the same player. They're not interchangeable. And that's the biggest thing everyone has to realize. It's not like you can just, take out Beasley and put McKenzie in there. McKenzie can't do a lot of the things that Beasley does. Just like Beasley, he doesn't have that deep speed like McKenzie. You're not going to see Cole Beasley running these deep overs and these deep crossers all the time. You're going to see him run those option routes. He's good at leveraging coverage. He's good at in the short to low, or I should say low intermediate area. He's good in the 0 to 10 yard area, beating his man, whether in man coverage, recognizing what's going on in zone, things that McKenzie doesn't do. McKenzie's good at running away from defenders, beating guys in man on deeper routes, taking advantage of his speed. And then when we incorporate Manny Sands back into the fold as well, he's a guy I want to mention. He's healthy. I think he's a big piece in this offense. He's more explosive than people give him credit for. I'm very excited that he's healthy for this playoff run, and they let him heal the last several weeks. And I think everything is really going to come down to matchup specific and taking advantage of the skill sets that they have, because as much flack as Brian Daboll has gotten, and we saw it in some people asking comments or making comments and asking questions earlier about Daboll, Brian Daboll's good at maximizing his talent and taking advantage of the skill set of his players. So I think you're going to see things curated to those skill sets, because not everyone is just a like for like, one for one replacement.
Right. Totally, man. And as I said at the top, Daboll would be smart, and I expect him to curate a game script that has those players that you guys were asking about, and seeing the different packages and how they're defending it. As we have seen in that week 16 matchup, because Kumaro was in there, and they're going to defend Kumaro differently than they're going to defend Beasley or McKenzie. So having different guys in there in that game script to get an idea of how they're just going to match up, how they're going to align. As I said at the beginning, that's going to be incredibly important. So let's move on to the second segment here. So staying on the offensive side of the ball versus the Patriots defense, let's take a look at some the run game line and directional stats. So adjusted line stats from one of our favorite websites, Anthony, Football Outsiders. And so the top graphic is Football Outsiders defensive line stats, their adjusted line yards for the Patriots defense over the last 2 years. And as you can see, if you work from left to right, you can see that the line yardage for 2021, they're ranked 22nd. They surrender 4.45 yards. A lot of those yards are coming from the running back. That's not really a surprise. So you can kind of see each column. Power success rate is like those third and fourth and short plays. They're really good in that area.
I love power success. That is so it's the success rate that you have and success percentage on third and fourth down 2 yards or less. And it also goes into the red zone as well. So like third and goal from 2 or less, fourth and goal from 2 or less. So if you have a higher percentage on offense, that means you are succeeding in those third and shorts and those fourth and shorts. If you have a higher success rate as a defense, that means you want a lower score, because a higher percentage for a defense means you're allowing teams to succeed on those downs. And for reference, talk about the Bills defense. The Bills have a defensive power success rate of 74%, which means 74% of the time opposing offenses are converting with the run on those 3rd and 2 or 4th and 2s against them, which makes the Bills 29th. So that puts that into perspective a little bit.
All right, so you got that frame of reference right there. So now let's look at directional stats. So left to right, based on the offense. Look at New England. I just cut all the other teams out. You can see New England down the bottom. And a lot of their yardage that's surrendered, adjusted line yards, is off the left side of the the offense. So their right side, 4.92 adjusted line yards off the left end, which is ranked 23rd. 11.7% frequency. So then off tackle, 4.98 yards, which is 26. And then you can move inside to in between the middle, the guard and center, 4.46 yards, adjusted line yards. That's ranked 22nd. So a good portion of their, yards surrendered to running backs and whatnot are off the left side of the offense. So you're thinking Dawkins, Bates, who's everyone's favorite guard now. And, we're going to get into what type of plays the Bills can run there in the film room. Obviously, we're going to take a look at some other stats, but gives you an idea on, where there are weaknesses in the Patriots run defense.
Yeah, that's a really nice graphic that you pulled up there. I loved it, seeing it in the pre-show prep and what you had planned here for this, because that's a good piece, right? Like, again, we're all into this idea of the film room of you're a pro scout and you're coming back to your coach to be like, hey, here's the download for this week. So that way you can put the game plan together and figure out where to execute. If you're looking at a defense, this is where context is so important, right? Like, you might look at, okay, this team gives up X amount of yards per game, but where are they giving up that X amount of yards? Where are the vulnerabilities? Where are the areas that you can take advantage of? Where are the areas that are more of their strength and maybe you should stay away from? Again, it allows you to continue to curate a game plan based on the weaknesses of your opponent, to be able to attack those weaknesses, expose them further, and then maybe potentially also maximize your strengths, which I love what Spencer Brown has done this year, given the expectation. But the left side from Morse over is going to be the strengths of this Buffalo Bills offensive line. So seeing what that potentially could mean, given where the Patriots give up rushing yards and where they rank in that regard, again, it's important for this episode so fans can understand, but it's important in putting the game plan together when you're an actual NFL team so you can pinpoint weaknesses and flaws and expose them and exploit them.
Right. And so now we're going to shift to that run game. We're going to talk about the identity of the Bills offense. Yes, it looks like they've gotten better and improved, and they're more efficient in the run game. And a lot of that has to do with Devin Singletary. We're going to talk a lot about him tonight. And a lot of that has to do with actually settling in offensively up front with Bates and, having everyone just settle in and like, okay, we've figured out what we're good at. And a lot of the times, and talk about that tweet about, how the Bills, and I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it because we're going to humble brag here. We said last year in the offseason, the Bills need to run more gap scheme. And it took them a while to get to it, Ant. But I am not mad at their shift to more gap scheme over the last few weeks. So you wanna throw that stat out there that you brought onto Twitter the other day?
I'm pulling it up now, but I basically remember it off the top of my head. So going into the first 12, oh boom, it came up right away when I looked for it. So weeks 1 through 13 for the Buffalo Bills. 27% gap runs, 67% zone. Again, weeks 1 through 13, 27% gap, 67% zone. Weeks 14 through 18, 48% gap runs, which is the fifth most in the entire NFL during that time, and 48% zone runs. So a 21 percentage point increase in gap runs from the first 13 weeks versus weeks 14 through 18. Thank you very much. My wife gave me a water. Thank you very much to my wife there.
See, stay hydrated. Let's go.
I need to stay hydrated. I couldn't get up. I also have to pee, but that's gonna have to wait. And then I love Charles's comment, the old faithful, the pin and pull. We talked about it. We talked about it last year when we diagnosed the struggles in the Bills' run game because people were trying to figure out why can't we run the ball? Is it the O-line's fault? Is it the running back's fault? Do we need to draft Najee Harris or Travis Etienne? What's the deal? Boy. And we talked about it. We talked about the switch in how the Bills moved towards more of a zone scheme towards the back end of last year. And it was like, okay, why did they feel they had to do that? And we talked about wanting more gap because of what? Mitch Morse, our boy. And then all of a sudden you add a Spencer Brown. And now you've got a Ryan Bates who's athletic and physical. It all speaks to being able to run more gap. And again, the numbers don't lie. That is huge. 27% gap runs in the first 13 weeks, which is on the lower end of the spectrum. And then all of a sudden you're running the fifth most gap runs the last quarter of the year based on usage rate. That is a huge shift. That is a huge understanding of your personnel and situation. It's wild.
Yeah. And so we're going to get to some of those pin and pulls. I'm glad you brought it up. But as I said, they've been more efficient, and a lot of that has to do with Singletary and up front. But when it comes to this time of the year, you have to lean on what you're good at. And everyone knows the Bills are an RPO-based team. And we're going to talk about mainly the RPO runs, but the Bills run RPOs overall the fifth most at 19%. They average 7.9 yards per attempt on RPO passes. They have a 7.1% touchdown rate. And they only surrendered 12.5% pressure percentage, which is really good considering what their overall is. I think their overall is probably in the 30 to 35% range as far as pressure percentage surrendered. And everyone knows that RPOs, run pass options, are really like an extension of the run game, but they're part of your quick game packages too. You want to get the ball out of your quarterback's hand, do it quickly, get that leverage, get the ball out there to your playmakers. That is, the RPOs are one of the main things to do that. But more importantly, they have a EPA of 14.48, which is the second most on RPOs. So it's their identity, and they're going to have to carry this identity into this game. And as you're going to see in the film, they ran it RPOs at a really high rate, and they were really efficient in that Week 16 matchup against the Patriots. But it was one of those concepts that early in the year we're like, okay, we need to scale it back a little bit. Yeah, especially in the red zone because, and I think this is not getting talked about enough. Yes, Singletary's getting in his rhythm, but I think that he's now able to, as a running back, again, as I played running back, like you don't only want the attempts and frequency, but you want to be able to read your offensive linemen. And if those linemen are always shuffling out and, you're not always getting the ball, you're not able to find, where you need to aim for. You generally have a landmark. Okay, I need to hit the inside hip, aim for the inside hip of the center on inside zone runner, however your coaches teach it. But those things are tweaked just a little bit, as you'll see in some of these plays, when you have different offensive linemen, when you have different combination blocks and how they approach it, the angles, it all makes it different as a running back, Ant.
Oh, for sure. And we highlighted some of them in that Falcons game. We showed some of the blocks that Ryan Bates had and Mitch Morse had where they made it clear as day based on their body position and their posture of where Devin Singletary needed to go. He didn't have any decisions to make. He didn't have to really set anything up. He had a clear lane like one of the dudes in the airport on the tarmac, on the runway, signaling for the airplane to come through. That's what Bates and Morse and several of the offensive linemen were doing for Devin Singletary. And I love that you mentioned the RPO piece, and this is something we talked about offline. It's funny, as the Bills have gotten more successful with the run game, teams are having to honor the R part of the RPO, which is the run piece.
Yep.
And part of the reason why we didn't like it holistically in the beginning of the year was because teams weren't honoring that run part. They were like, oh, you want to do that? Okay, cool. Run the ball. We don't care. We're not going to let Josh Allen beat us. But now that there is some semblance of a running game, now that there is a threat there, now that there is a potential pivot in this Bills offense, the RPOs are starting to work more effectively because defenses have to honor both pieces of it.
Yeah, totally. And honoring it early in the year wasn't the case here. So RPO run pass option, this is a red zone look. And I know you guys are like, oh, Eric, why are you starting off with this play? So KVN is the read as I outlined there. And we talked about this early in the year. This is a miss by Moss. They weren't honoring it. Look at these. I mean, you can go here, you could go there. This guy is all the way out of the box. They're not honoring it here in the red zone. And to make matters worse, Moss read it horribly. He tries getting up in that hole when he could have just went north and south, as you will see later in the film. We're going to talk about Singletary. You mentioned it. He went north and south on these plays. You cannot bounce these plays, especially when teams aren't honoring. Get north and south and get in the end zone. So here's one from a few weeks ago. So here's a little creativity in the red zone, right? You have McKenzie as an eye candy. The Patriots are playing man-to-man coverage. And what I love about RPOs, and we talked about it weeks ago, earlier in the year, is that it can give your offense leverage. It can give them spatial leverage. It can give your offensive lineman just enough space and leverage for his block. But it can also give you a numbers leverage and take backside pursuit defenders like you see here. Bentley, take him out of the play. So on the snap, Josh executes the mesh, and he's looking right at Bentley. And you see him, boom, he's flat-footed. He's staying back just in case they want to throw it on the backside here. As you can see, there's routes being run by Knox there. So Bentley is now flat-footed right there, waiting on that read. McKenzie is pulling Bryant out of the box because it's man coverage. And now the Bills have a hat on a hat. They have 3 guys on 3 guys, and they get that hat on a hat. Oh. And unfortunately, again, maybe this has something to do with Moss not getting the touches that Singletary does. But either way, look at this. This should be a touchdown. I mean, whether you're falling in here or falling in here, Moss goes left here, and he trips over Ryan Bates here. This is a touchdown. This is Brian Dable in an RPO play, getting them the numbers advantage, getting a hat on a hat, and the running back not able to execute on this play. So let's go to later in the game. The Bills have Singletary to Josh Allen's right. You have the linebacker is the read. I think that's Jamie Collins there is the read. He's outside of Knox. It's pretty easy here given the leverage of him on this play. It's an obvious give. So he's way out there. He's protecting against Josh Allen. If he keeps it, well, guess what? I'm going to give it to him, and you're going to see KVN, the inside linebacker, he kind of holds up just a little bit. And so Singletary shoots out wide here. He's one-on-one with McCourty, and he, again, gets what he can, breaks that first tackle, gets inside the 5-yard line. Not bad. Well, this is later in this game. Now, again, Motor has come a long way. He's a shifty guy. He's an elusive guy. He wants to make people miss. He's not used to just running downhill. Well, on this RPO, you see Josh Allen execute the mesh. He's reading Collins, number 58. But more importantly, watch the read by Devin Singletary. So here's a combination block that I outlined, and you see him hug that combination block, get north and south as Josh gives it to him. He gets up to speed, and now he's one-on-one with Bentley. He's not bouncing out here, so then now he's got 2 defenders on him. He's getting north and south, and he's running with physicality, and he's pounding it in there for the touchdown. Love it.
And that's, we talked about it after this game. Bentley is a very big linebacker. He's a thumper. He is not really built for today's NFL. He's not a coverage guy. He's not rangy. He's not Tremaine Edmonds or Nakobe Dean from Georgia. He is there to come forward and make plays, stick people in the hole. He's there to fill gaps. And Singletary takes it right to him. He attacks a shoulder. He gets north and south, puts his foot in the ground, gets lower. He is running through a stout running back, linebacker. But as great as that is, it really, again, it's that concept. It's the RPO action. It's the awesome celebration there by Josh Allen. He's pumped. He's loving it. This was a huge point in this game. And look at the Patriots reaction right after that score. Look at how McCourty is just like number 32.
Yep.
And then Phillips is just kind of like, and Jamie Count there. That's deflating when you have a team run it right at you. I talked about it with Nate Tice several weeks back. Actually doing the pregame for disguised coverage for this Patriots Bills game. There is something different about getting the ball run down your throat or having the ball executed on run games straight at you. It sucks your soul out more. It's demoralizing for a defense.
doubt.
That was a demoralizing play because of Devin Singletary, but even more so because of the RPO action and the looks that the Bills have been giving building up to that moment.
Yeah, I mean, RPOs are just great for a guy like Josh Allen, who's also a run threat, because, as I said, you gotta respect him as a runner, and that's KVN as the read right here. He's got to respect Josh if he were to keep it out here, but he also has Knox coming across the formation right here, and all of that motion, all of that action, it is just handed off to Singletary, and now look, you got a hat on a hat, and then here's, look at the defender right here, Phillips. Like, look at the lane that is given on this RPO. This all created because of Brian Dable's call, design, and having a quarterback like Josh Allen and just motor. Look at the track he takes here. He goes right at this guy. Why? Because Gacho is one of the better interior defensive linemen at two gapping. So his eyes are in this hole, and he wants to deter Motor Singletary from getting up inside here. Not that it's supposed to, but from getting up inside here as this lineman climbs. He wants to deter him. Eyes in the hole, deter him. Why? Because then as soon as the running back kicks it out, back out to this gap, he can just shrug the offensive lineman. But because Motor Singletary presses the back of Williams right here, you see Williams get great leverage because of it. And Motor sets up his block, almost runs into Knox here. And he's able to get north and south on this play. And Gacho is not able to shed here. And again, a really nice gain on an RPO. Here's the same game, right? Reed is Judon off to the right side of the screen. Watch the design here in the low red zone. So here comes Sanders motioning in to the line of scrimmage here, and he's doing it really fast. It almost looks like it's going to come all the way across the screen. Well, look at McCourty. Look what it does to him. He's letting that guy know, hey, if he comes across, I'm going to take him. We're going to rock and roll is what they call it, right? So he widens just a little bit. Ball is snapped, and you see the Bills execute the mesh here. Allen executes the mesh. Judon gives him a give read. Well, guess what? That's money.
There's nobody in the middle.
There's no one there. Look what Bentley's got to do. He's got to keep his eyes back here. And next thing you know, Motor's up in the hole as best he can, puts his helmet down, and nearly scores on this play. So great design. But again, RPO. If there's so many layers to these RPOs, even when they give the ball, right, Ant?
Yeah, there's so much going on. And the whole concept of the RPO is to put the defense collectively, but especially certain individual players in conflict. It is designed to make someone wrong no matter what you do. If you do A, cool, we're going to do B. If you do B, oh, cool, we're going to do A. It is designed to be a win-win scenario for an offense. So you should be executing at a high clip if you're running RPO. And like we talked about, the Bills weren't initially in the earlier part of the year because that run game was not where it is. But now look at this is scheme and design. And because, again, you have to honor that piece in the game because you still have to honor, well, what if Josh Allen keeps this ball? What if he keeps it and runs it? What if he keeps it and throws it? And now we've got some success in the run. And part of it's because of Devin Singletary. But it's also you started to highlight players. Look at the execution. Look at you have a hat on a hat. You've got bodies on bodies. You've got the makings of a solid double team on the inside and being able to go and move up the field and make your way to the second level. And then you typed it up and you moved it over there. Look at the occupation that's going on the outside. Duggar's occupied because of Dawson Knox. Jalen Mills is occupied because of the route coming out of the backfield. Matthew Judon is occupied because he's the one that is being keyed on by Josh Allen. So you've got scheme that is really working combined with the execution piece. This is just a really well-designed play call. Look at Jalen Mills is still flying out of the screen, reading that route from the receiver. It's just really well designed, and it all comes from the concept of the RPO and then ties back into the success the Bills are having with the run game, which makes teams have to honor both parts of the RPO, which makes them wrong almost no matter what they do.
Yeah, and this is again, these are things that Bill Belichick, Steve Belichick, whoever's running that defense has to worry about. Here's really the capper, right? This is the Dawson Knox touchdown, and they're really putting guys in conflict. So Judon is the read guy. I have him circled, and you see him, he dives down. And so that is telling Josh, hey, you need to keep it. Okay, well, so he's taking that inside runaway that you just saw Singletary, basically 2 plays before, just get downhill and deliver a hit. Well, now Josh is keeping it. Well, now guess what? We have 2 receivers out wide and you have 2 defenders out there. Well, who's accounting for the keeper? Who's accounting for Josh Allen? Who's the force player? Duggar. Okay, is Duggar going to go with Knox or is Duggar going to fill versus the QB keeper? Well, he's going to fill. Josh is going to bubble just a little bit. Knox is going to run the stick route. And now guess what? You have a modern triple option touchdown to Dawson Knox. Like, just beautiful, and a beautiful way to really cap off the entire RPO, not just the passes, but the run frequency. The run frequency really made Judon dive down on Devin Singletary here, get Josh to keep it here. And then again, that pitch that Josh made, the second one on this drive to Dawson Knox, this one for a touchdown, just gorgeous.
This is really, I love everything always comes back to the triple option, the foundation of old school football. It all ties back. But no, that's what it is. Like, this is modern day conflict. The triple option was, the kind of a predecessor in a way, because that was old school conflict, making a defense wrong almost no matter what they did. This is that on the steroids. Like, the fact that, okay, am I supposed to contain here? Am I the force player? Okay, do I stay in coverage? Okay, do I come up? Like, you are wrong no matter what you do. Judon, if he doesn't collapse down, this ball gets handed off. Exactly, it gets handed off, and Singletary scores, and he would be wrong. Instead, Judon collapses down and takes Singletary. Josh gets outside. Judon is wrong no matter what. Duggar, if he stays with Dawson Knox, Josh takes off and gets into the end zone. Duggar's wrong there. If Duggar comes up like he does, Josh gives it to Dawson Knox, and Duggar's wrong. That is the foundation of the RPO. The whole design is real-time reading to make the defense wrong no matter what they do. And the Bills, they've run RPOs so much of this year, especially in the red zone, but overall. And it's been a huge jump from where this team was last year. But without that pivot in the run game, it wasn't working to this level. We're seeing it succeed now in the back end of the year, coincidentally, but actually not coincidentally, because the running game is succeeding more. And when you get clips like this, again, these are more frustrating plays for a defense. This is the one right after where Judon goes right to the ref and starts complaining about something. We still don't know what, but it's just a sign of they're so frustrated, because it's like you get beat so bad by such a perfect design that it's like, well, they had to have been cheating. It's like when you're watching semi-pro and they do the alley-oop for the first time and everybody's just like, foul? Like, they don't know what to do, because it's like, well, that worked too well. Like, that can't be legal. Like, that's what it does to teams.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it, man. Once Motor and the offensive line started getting in rhythm, started getting in sync, you saw Judon right there have to respect that inside run. He had to pinch down just a little bit, and that really just added a new process to the play. Josh keeps it and makes those plays. So now we talked about RPOs. We talked about where the Bills may be able to run the ball off the left side. Well, what's in the arsenal, Anthony? What can the Bills run? I mean, you don't have to look too far back if you're talking about RPOs. If we're talking about our favorite run play, the pin and pull. Well, maybe you guys remember this play. So you have the slants to the bottom, and you have a pin and pull. And this is a 6-man box. I don't know if this is true read of this backside defender right here. But nonetheless, it could be just straight up, okay, we have 6 in the box. We're running the pin and pull. Josh hands it off. Motor, again, makes the guy miss in the backfield, Grady Jarrett, and then just truck sticks the safety down the field. So that's what they have in the arsenal. They can run those pin and pull runs, those gap type runs that Anthony talked about, that shift this back quarter of the year. They can run these type of plays, but they also have it tied into their RPO game where, if for some reason this guy, fell into the fit, or they had an extra defender in the box, they could easily pull it and run that, slant or stick route to Beasley in the slot. So the Bills have options in the arsenal. This was one of our favorite runs of the year. Obviously a pin and pull, but this was really one of those games where like, okay, Singletary's bringing it in a different way, right, Ant?
Yeah, he was showing burst. He was making defenders miss in space and also making them miss with physicality. And this run really highlights it. The way he finished this run, getting extra yards, truck sticking defenders, even this initial move right here, like Grady Jarrett does a great job of
Yeah,
getting inside. Singletary has to get this ball and then he has to make a horizontal step that kind of makes him go backwards towards the end zone in order to avoid Grady Jarrett. So great
yeah,
play by Jarrett. He doesn't get to make the play. You highlighted Bates. Look at Bates just driving his man into the turf, using the defender's own momentum against him and putting him down. And all of a sudden, Singletary's around the edge, and we've got our boy Mitch Morse out in front. Look at we're so in sync right there.
look at
Dawson
that.
Knox upfield, really great block out in space on Deion Jones. Dawson Knox's blocking is something we've talked about on the last several episodes of the film room because of how well he's done and how it's not really being talked about. He gets out in front. And now you have Devin Singletary one-on-one with the safety. And what's rough, if you watch this in real time, like we're doing slow-mo, if someone goes and watches this in real time, you can see Sean Williams' body just like collapse. Like that's demoralizing when that happens to you. But what is it? It's a piece of Singletary's game that we're starting to see more. We saw it on the touchdown run against Bentley. We see it here in the open field. It's super funny and it's
I
comical,
can't stop
but
watching it.
dude, it's so bad. And then and even that, like he trucks him, and then after it's not like, okay, I go down. It takes multiple guys to bring
Yep.
him down. He's running angry. He's running physical. He's running with a purpose. I think also some of it has to do with the confidence and them kind of putting
Yeah.
him as that RB1. A stat I just wanted to pull out quickly. The first 12 games of the year, Devin Singletary had 408 total snaps. He only had one game with more than 60 snaps, and he averaged 34 snaps per game. The last 5 games, 306 snaps versus 408 the first 12. 4 games with more than 60 snaps in the last 5 versus just 1 in the first 12. And again, in the first 12, he was averaging 34 snaps per game. In the last 5, he's averaging 61 snaps per game.
Yeah.
They recognize what they have, they're using it, and I think it's given him a boost. We don't talk about the mental side of the game often. It's a nice thing when you come into a year and you're thinking like, okay, like I got to outperform these guys and it's a running back by committee. We'll see what happens. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, guess what? You're the dude. It does something to your performance. It changes your mentality. And we're seeing that on the field along with the execution of the O-line, everything kind of coming together. It's really well timed. And I don't want to discredit Singletary, but I'm just going to say it's because of the pin and pulls, because we love them and we've been talking about them for
Yeah.
over a year.
Yeah, no doubt. And this is another play where, again, RPO off the left side type run. We broke this down a few weeks ago. You see the 3 defenders to the top, respecting the 3 receivers out there. RPO, you see the read diagrammed. He plays flat-footed outside. Well, guess what? That's a give read, and you have Singletary getting north and south on the run here. Really good read of the body language on this combination block right here by Bates. Dawkins to the second level. Really, really good read it makes it easy for Singletary as Bates scoops to the second level right there. He tells Singletary where to make this cut. Singletary, you're not going that way. You're getting right up inside. You're getting north and south. Motor doesn't hesitate. Again, an RPO, a downhill, efficient run, and that's why they score a touchdown. So here's another play later in the game. 6-man box. Your possible read is Oluwakan, the linebacker there. Here's the RPO give, another pin and pull. This time Moss gets in on the action, and there are bodies everywhere. Dawkins throws his down block, and then you see a physical finish on the safety there. So this is what the Bills can run off the left side. This is what the Bills can run in their RPO game. Here's a too-high look from the Jets in Week 18. So the read here is C.J. Mosley, the linebacker. They're running just a couple curls to the right side of the formation. And so you see Josh execute the mesh. Here's Mosley dropping out. Well, that's an easy, again, especially with 2 high safeties and a light box, him dropping out. Easy give read and north and south cut. You see Motor from this angle just get north and south and convert. This is 2nd and 5 or 6, and he's moving the chains. You see Josh, first down. That's efficient running. That's the way the Bills have to operate, especially on these RPOs. Just get north and south. So now let's check in. All right. You saw what the Bills did in Week 16 against the Patriots when it came to these RPOs and how they attacked. Okay, so this is the Dolphins game that The Dolphins they just beat the Patriots. And so this is that game film. Here's an RPO that they ran. And you saw the Patriots run more man coverage against the Bills in the low red zone on these RPOs. And on this play, they play zone coverage. So that's something to keep an eye on as I let this roll. So here's Waddle coming to the bottom of the screen in motion. And the Patriots play zone coverage and totally drop Waddle in the back of the end zone for the touchdown there. So, I mean, how are they going to defend the Bills on these type of plays? Are they going to run zone? Are they going to run man? That'll play a difference. Is Josh going to be thrown into open windows like that against zone or tighter windows against pass and have to make those decisions and processes a lot quicker? Here's another one. You're seeing basically a wheel from the tight end. Here's the mesh. He pulls it, throws it up and over the top. They forget about the tight end again. And finally, you're going to see, and this is where the Bills are going to have to run, right, off the left side here. And this play could have been a lot bigger. So here's the mesh. You see 91 charge the quarterback. So it's a give read. And you see the running back try to hug it like Singletary does. He hugs that combination block. Well, Bentley gets back outside. And right here, the lineman actually gets his head to the outside, does a decent job there. This guy's peeking aside, so he's going to have to bounce it out here. Well, the lineman doesn't pick up Bentley all that well. He disengages and makes the tackle. But, again, if Dawkins is in there instead of, I believe that's the rookie there, does he make that block on Bentley or at least give Singletary enough time to break that tackle? That we will find out this weekend. And with that said, we get out of the film of the Bills RPO run game. Segment 2 over. Hope you're drinking your water. Hope you're grabbing your beverages. You're taking your little breaks now. We appreciate the over 200 people joining us in the film room still.
Yeah.
After that second segment, but I don't know about you, Ant, but the run game has been efficient. I don't think it's not something to scoff at anymore. They're getting in rhythm, and more importantly, Dable and the staff know what they can execute now, and that is really the thing you want most going into the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Like we've talked about it all year. The Bills don't need to have a running game for the sake of balance, like balance to the level of like 50-50. It doesn't need to be 25 passes, 25 runs, but they need efficiency in the run game, and they need a run game to the point that it makes defenses have to honor it or at least acknowledge that it exists. You need to be able to execute in certain scenarios in the run and make the defense think that it's a threat. And why? Well, one, it converts on certain downs. It gets you yards. It moves the ball down the field. But in the Bills' case, having that pivot means that teams cannot just straight sell out for the Bills' passing game. This Bills, we've talked about it. This Bills' offense, their theme is Josh Allen. If you open up the Bills' playbook, the first page is just a picture of Josh Allen. That's what it is, right? The Bills want to pass. They want to lean on Josh Allen. They've leaned into this spread offense and this spread attack. But that doesn't mean you can come out and pass it 90% of every game. You need to have that other option, especially when the Bills want to run these RPOs. And now they're having this run game, which has opened up so much of this offense. It is taking some pressure off Josh Allen. It's making defenses have to honor both pieces of the offensive game in the run and the pass. They can't just come out and play too high and play zone because the Bills are executing up front. It's causing defenses to have to play a little more coverage like they played last year. They're starting to have to bring safeties down to the box. They're having to honor play action pass more. They're having to honor the run of the RPO because of what the Bills running game has done. And again, it just opens up so much for this team. And last year was a perfect example. Everybody wants to talk about, Tom Brady and how great the Buccaneers passing attack was. People don't talk about how good that running game was and how Leonard Fournette was arguably the MVP of the playoffs. Playoff Lenny was a thing, and how good the Buccaneers offensive line is and how well they run block and how well they can run in addition to their passing game. That's what you need. You need both blades ready to go. They both need to be sharp, and the Bills are starting to have that. And if teams can't sell out and play the Bills one-dimensionally and they have to honor that run game, it's a huge thing. And we're starting to see it pay dividends, and it couldn't have come at a better time now that we're going into the playoffs and starting to hit their stride a little bit, and they found something that they can hang their hat on and something that works. We'll see where it goes from here. But I love that you mentioned, the competition necessarily hasn't been great, and it's not like the Bills are setting the world on fire, but they've been efficient. And that is a very big plus because they were not efficient in the earlier part of the year. So any win is a big win for them.
Absolutely, Devin. Appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Now we're into the final leg. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Ant. All right. I want you to tell me what the Patriots offense is good at, and really what you found in your research. Obviously, we've used all these different resources to pull up tendencies. We're going to get to the film. So I want you to talk about the Patriots offense, Mac Jones, and obviously what you think they're going to bring offensively.
So I don't think it's any secret that this Patriots team is a running team. They 51% gap run on the year. It is the most in the NFL. They are 7th in DVOA rushing. They are 4th in offensive power success at 77%. They're 8th in rushing yards per game at 126.5. It all starts with the running game for them, right? And so part of, how to attack this Patriots offense is getting them out of that run game, getting them into situations where you can make Mac Jones predictable. You can take advantage of that passing attack.
Right.
And part of that comes from what Mac Jones likes to do. So if you want, boom, I was going to say, throw that graphic back up. We're the same. We know what's going on here.
I got you.
So all jokes aside, I think a lot of talk is spoken about Mac Jones, and it's really in the negative, especially after the Patriots started to win a little bit. The media wanted to anoint him the next Tom Brady. Everyone else thought that was ridiculous. So now you've just got two opposite ends of the spectrum, people that think he's great and people that think he's terrible. And anytime he does anything bad, everybody blows it up. He's been better than people realize. He's had a fine rookie year, but he does have limitations. And what you see up here on the screen is his passing direction stats. And I think this is very, very, very telling. And it makes sense given what you've seen and what you see on the film. So 47% of Mac Jones's passing attempts, all of them, have come between 0 and 9 yards. 21.1% of all of his passing attempts have come in the intermediate, 10 to 19 yards. 14.8% of his passing attempts have come from behind the line of scrimmage. Bruce Nolan said it on Disguised Coverage last night with me that Mac Jones throws a beautiful swing pass. And
screens and screen passes,
all day he does. And then you go to that last stat right there, right? Only 11.1% of his attempts have come 20 yards or more. He is functioning in the short to intermediate area of the field. And even if we start to combine some of those numbers, right? So 10 to 19 and, 20 yards plus, only 32.2% of his passes come 10 yards or more. Right, that's unreal. 61.8% of his passes come either behind the line of scrimmage or are capped at 9 yards, right? So what do you want to do? You want to force Mac Jones into areas where he doesn't feel comfortable. You want to get him into those 3rd and longs. You want to start to push him into those areas where he has to push the ball vertically, which is not what his skill set is built for. He doesn't have the arm to push the ball downfield. He doesn't have the legs to be tremendously mobile. He can function within an offense that is built around him and that has players that'll set him up for success. And that's what, honestly, this Patriots offense does have. They have a very good offensive line in terms of pass protection and run blocking. They're big, they're physical, they're talented. They've got good running backs. They've got receivers on the outside who can function in the run game and can block. And those receivers also function in the areas where Mac Jones likes to work. So on the other side of this graphic here, this is a further breakdown of specifically where his throws have come. These are the top 3 areas. The first 3 points here are the top 3 areas where most of his attempts have come. So 23.8% of his passes have come in the short center. So 23.8 in the center of the field, 0 to 9 yards. Yep. 12.3% of his passes have come in the short right area. So the right side of the field, 0 to 9 yards. Already right there, you're looking at what? Over 35% of his passes that are coming in the short center and the short right. And then 10% of his passes come in the intermediate center, so 10 to 19 center of the field. He likes to work in the center of the field. He likes to work to the middle to the right. That's where he likes to go. And then you combine that with his average depth of target, which I got pulled up here, which is 8.3. Again, speaks to everything, considering over 61%, almost 62% of his passes come from 9 yards or below. So you want to force him into those areas. And, you broke down a lot of Mac Jones film. He can be quick and he can be decisive when he's going to the middle of the field and the short parts of the field. But when you start to clog that up, it's difficult for him.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Like, he's got good accuracy when he's setting his feet and going through those progressions. And Josh McDaniels and that staff do a great job, as you said, keeping him and the offense on schedule, whether it's with the run game, setting up initially on those base downs, 1st and 2nd down, setting him up into third and manageable. So yeah, he can work the middle of the field just fine. But yeah, he's not a guy that's going to push the field ball down the field a whole hell of a lot. And you did talk about the run game, and I want to talk about, everyone knows, like, yeah, you gotta keep Mac Jones, make him the focal point, stop the run game, make him pass the ball. Well, how will the Bills do that? And I'll say, the Bills are going to run blitz the hell out of the Patriots offense. So yeah, I think we may see more Klein, more 3 linebacker sets as they did in that second matchup in week 16, have 3 linebackers out there, but they also sent Hyde. They also sent Poyer on a lot of run blitzes. And what happens on those plays, guys, is you're going to have a slanting, the defensive end and defensive tackles. They're in their alignments. And on the snap, what they're going to do is they're going to slant to their inside gap. The Bills are going to bring a safety off the edge. Sometimes it's Taron Johnson when they're in nickel, and he's going to be that free runner. But more importantly, it's going to stop and penetrate on a run blitz up the middle. So you're going to have the Rousseaus, the Jerry Hughes, and those guys off the edge blowing up these plays up the middle, hopefully, on early downs. And that's why I can't remember the stat off the top of my head as far as percentages go, but that's why Mac Jones is also the highest blitz quarterback in the league because, well, guess what? On early downs, defenses are calling run blitzes. Well, if they decide to run play action or run a quick game, that ends up being a blitz. It's a blitz. It's really just a blitz that ends up, when the Patriots run it, it's a run blitz. So you're meant to disrupt the run blocking. At the same time, we appreciate it, Elijah, man. That's awesome. Thank you for joining us, man. And we appreciate everyone still hanging in there with us in this extended film room, this postseason edition. But yeah, that's why, like, a lot of teams blitz Mac Jones per se, but really they're blitzing the run game of Mac Jones. Why? Because they want to get him in those third and long situations, right, Ant?
Yeah, that's what they want to do. They want to put him into scenarios where he is at a disadvantage. And, you pulled up the stat. I mentioned, some of the advanced metrics that we're starting to look at. So the third and long, that's where you want to start to put him in. And the Patriots offense, they win on early downs. They are third in DVOA on first down. That is tremendously impressive. They win on first down. So what do you have to do? You have to not let them win on first down. You have to attack them. And why do you want to do that? Because look at the rest of their DVOA numbers, especially in longer scenarios. 19th in DVOA on 2nd and 7 yards or more. 28th in DVOA, ironically, on 3rd and 2 when they're in more predictable scenarios. And then 18th in DVOA on 3rd and 7 yards or more. So
explain DVOA real quick. Just really quickly what DVOA means. So for people that don't understand what it means.
So DVOA is basically a measure of a team's efficiency by comparing them to all the other teams in the league based on situation and opponent. And so an easiest way to break it down, it can be in a team perspective and an individual perspective, but the easiest way I try to break it down into a granular piece, right? Like, what's more valuable, right? From a raw standpoint, a 5-yard gain, no matter when it happens, is 5 yards. You get 5 yards. Congratulations. But what's more valuable, a 5-yard run on 3rd down and 3 or a 5-yard run on 3rd and 17? The 5-yard run on 3rd and 3. So that gets weighted better, and it affects teams' ratings and efficiency ratings because it's not just about raw yards and raw stats. It takes into account how all these other teams are operating given scenarios, given opponents. And that's why the Bills' high ratings in DVOA this year are such a solid metric for them, because people like to say, well, look at the teams that they played and they had a bad schedule or an easy schedule and they played these bad teams. But the way they're operating, because DVOA compares them to all the other teams in the league in those scenarios and based on opponents, it allows you to balance out and get a true efficiency reading of what a team is rather than just going off of raw numbers and raw metrics.
Awesome. Yeah, that's and I always just say it's efficiency. It's a way to measure efficiency versus the league. And it adds a lot more context than just raw yardage, raw stats. And that's why we like to bring it up. Wow, John, appreciate that, man.
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you for joining us in the film room, and everyone else as well. We couldn't do this without you guys. Like, all these little fancy graphics that we brought up, these slides that we spent all day doing, all of these programs that you see when we're watching film, like, we are able to do that because of you guys. So like, literally, like, just a contribution like that, it really makes a huge difference for us. And it really, I mean, we're going to do this anyway. regardless if we make anything off this,
That
regardless
is
if we
true.
have any of these memberships, we're going to do this. We're junkies. All right. We're junkies. This is our vice, or this is our addiction. So the fact that you guys enjoy it and are able to support
Yeah,
a
man.
company like Cover One, we appreciate it so much, because we literally couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you very much. But let's shift now. If you're ready, Ant, you want to shift into some of the film, some of the Patriots offense film.
Oh, is there more film?
Oh
Is
yeah,
there
you
more
know
film?
it. You know
Oh,
it.
you definitely know. We're moving into segment 3 here. Yeah, let's get right into the film. And the first thing I wanted to show is, I mentioned it earlier, what Miami did on defense last week in Week 18 against the New England Patriots, and it was a really well curated game plan. So here's the first play of the game. It's classified as a 3rd and 1, but I think it's more of a 3rd and 3. So 3rd and 3 from the New England 34. This is their first drive of the game. The Patriots are in shotgun. They're in empty. And Miami shows 4 rushers. They only rush 3. They drop one out. They drop 8 into coverage. And they do something that they don't traditionally do. They run a cover 2 defense behind it. And you see at the bottom of the screen, Xavier Howard, he starts to reroute his man. Yep, you've highlighted him right there. So he reroutes his man a little bit. And what does he do? He snaps his head back around. He gets his eyes on Mac Jones. And he jumps number 2, running that little stick right there, picks it, and he houses it, right? This is the thing that Miami did. They started to break tendency a little more in this game. So on the year, the Miami Dolphins are a 33% man coverage team and a 50% zone team. In this game, they were in zone 60% of the time. So
Wow.
a 10 percentage point increase. And usually when they're in zone, they like to go to more single high stuff. They ran a decent amount of cover 2 in this game. And why did they run cover 2 in this game? Because it goes to what we talked about earlier. They wanted to clog the short and intermediate area. They were comfortable having 2 high and just clogging down low by having their corners in the flats and their linebackers almost all in line in unison with their corners. If you look and see where they are, that front line is almost completely even. They've got somebody dropping in the middle in almost a Tampa 2 style to take away Hunter Henry, but they are guarding that short and intermediate area because they know the percentages. They know where Mac Jones likes to go with the ball, and they attacked. And I really like this. This is the high leverage situation. This is the first drive of the game, and breaking tendency and doing something that you're not normally doing, which is what breaking tendency is. It can be a really great way to throw off anybody, but especially a rookie quarterback. And the Bills, they love to disguise coverages. They love to present different looks. They love to crowd the line and drop guys out. And they have the ability to play cover 2 in addition to all the other coverages because of how good their secondary is. And it's nice to see Matt get, and honestly, we don't like Miami. Great play by Xavier Howard, rerouting his man, turning his head, finding the quarterback, reading his eyes. Mac Jones doesn't even see him. And this is a beautiful jump.
Yeah, 2 things I want to mention. You said the contact by Howard. That's incredibly important when you're a cloud corner like Howard is here. You want to reroute him, make him work outside to help your safety so he can get out over the top of that, first of all. And then obviously he's getting his eyes on the quarterback. But this play overall, this 8-man Tampa 2 type coverage, 3 rushers, this is a Patriots staple, believe it or not. This is a Patriots staple. As you said, this is the wall defender, that deep middle defender right there. And they drop out Baker. He is the underneath player at the sticks. As you said, everyone's kind of lined up and set up a wall at the sticks. This is called Monty. This is Tampa 2 Monty. This is right out of the Belichick playbook here. 8 in coverage, Tampa 2. And as you said, I wonder if Mac was trying to maybe throw it to the inside shoulder and got away from him because of the pressure that flashed in front of his face. Either way, this is a Patriots staple. So Flores was probably like, I gotcha on that one, man.
Yeah, I feel like he was very, very pleased with this one. And so we move to the next play, 2nd and 5 from the New England 44, still in the first quarter. And we talked about earlier getting Miami into those situations, 3rd and long, making them predictable. And so what do you see on this play? You see 5 on the line of scrimmage. You see 8 in the box. You basically almost have 9 in the box because the corner is lined up on Jacoby Myers and he's tight to the tight end.
Yeah.
And what do? Look at how Miami attacks New England on this play. Look at Jakob Johnson, who's a very big fullback for the New England Patriots, Look at him get clocked in the hole. Look at Miami attack aggressively. They reestablished the
I
line.
like that.
They did this consistently in this game against the New England Patriots. You talked about it earlier, right? Run blitzes and things like that, slanting inside, freeing up space and attacking. This angle is beautiful for it. Also, beautiful swim move right there by number 92. He gets in
That's a
so
gap
fluidly.
exchange. It's
Yes, it is.
beautiful. It's a call. He recognized the run block and he exchanged out into the C gap there. It's beautiful.
Beautiful. And that's what we talked about on this show, right? Like run integrity and gap exchanges. And 52 reads it. Oh, meets Jakob Johnson in the hole. And then you see Christian Wilkins getting penetration and making a play. You see Sealer coming through on that swim and making the play. But again, the whole idea, Miami in this game, they got beat from time to time, but when they were successful in stopping New England, it's because they were aggressive on first and second down in stopping the run, forcing the Patriots into third and medium, third and long scenarios where they don't want to be because they are predictable. When they're in those scenarios, teams know what they're going to throw. Teams know where they're going to try to attack given the limitations of Mac Jones, and it makes them predictable. And Miami brought intensity and I love the
That's
way their run
impressive.
fits are. Yeah, it really is. It's physical. It's nasty. If you watch this on the broadcast, there is noise. There are pads popping on contact and right off the snap. This is what Buffalo needs to do, and this is
Wow.
what teams have done successfully. Again, when they're successful again in defending New England, because they're aggressive with these run fits on first and second down in order to force them in third in situations that New England doesn't want to be.
Yeah, let's put them in third and long. And I just can't stop looking at Christian Wilkins on the rip move
He's had such a great year.
on Mason. Like, look at the gap exchange. He reads it, but then watch the left arm rip to the sky on Shaq Mason, just totally throw him off guard. That was pretty, man. That's the type of play you want from your interior defensive lineman.
And number 90 is strong at the point of attack, turn in the center inside. Like almost every man wins up front, and they also fill their gaps. And it's just a really quality play. And this is the very next play, right? So that was 2nd and 5. Brandon Bolden loses a yard. This is now 3rd and 6 from the New England 43. And we have Mac Jones in shotgun. The Pats are in 11 personnel, which the fun fact, the Patriots are in 11 personnel 82% of the time on third down. So fun fact there. And they're in a 2-by-2 formation. And again, what do we have? Miami crowding the line of scrimmage. We've got 3 defenders that are in 2-point stances. They've got 5 on the line, but they drop 3 of them.
Yeah.
Right? 5 on the line, but they drop 3. Boom. And then they bring Eric Rowe from the slot as the third rusher. So they only rush 3, but they rush it creatively. They drop 8 again. They play cover 2 once again. And where are they? They're clogging the short to the intermediate area of the field. They are squeezing windows. They are making things tight for Mac Jones. And Mac Jones has time. The Pats pick this up well. They read it, but he's got nowhere to go. And he's just sitting back there holding and patting and holding and patting because everybody's got eyes. I love how you queued him up right there. Kendrick Bourne coming across the middle is covered. Hunter Henry goes on the intermediate past the sticks. He's covered by the linebacker. Mac Jones does not have the arm to hit the vertical at the top of the screen and fit that into the honey hole. He doesn't have it to hit it on the bottom, and he's already looked away from that anyway. And that's part of that limitation, right? Because a strong arm quarterback can try to make that throw into the honey hole between the cover 2 corner and the safety coming over the top. Mac can't make that throw, which is also good on him. He recognizes his limitations, and it's part of the reason why he succeeded at times this year, because he knows what he is. He knows he can't make that throw. So what does he have to do? He has to bring his eyes back down low, but none of the guys are open underneath because of a really well-timed coverage call, another cover 2 look that breaks tendency for Miami, but stalls what New England wants to do because it takes advantage of where they are weak. And I thought that was a really great call. Yeah,
that was a good rotation too by the safeties on the back end of that. That was pretty.
Yeah, they executed really well in this game. We move to the next play here, 3rd and 10, second quarter here from the Miami 45-yard line. And we've got the Patriots here in 11 personnel. This one is probably my favorite play out of all this, right? Already here, you look at Nick Needham and you see Xavier Howard up at the top, right? They're starting to communicate. They're communicating. They're letting each other know. You highlighted it already, right? That yellow line. Miami has 8 men at the line of scrimmage. 8. What do we know about Miami, especially when how they've succeeded in the back half of this year, right? You think about the Carolina game, the Baltimore game, cover zero blitz.
Zero blitzes.
Blitzes, exactly. Zero blitzes, meaning you are bringing the house, man coverage behind it. There's nobody in the middle of the field. There's no safety up top. Your defensive backs are in one-on-one coverage. Everybody else is blitzing. There is no help, zero blitz. But what the Patriots do, they run a lot of motion. They've done it a lot this year, and they do it to help Mac Jones identify the defense. If you want to pause it right there for me, if you'd be so kind. So they bring a motion man across the field. Nick Needham comes all the way across field with his man. You highlighted him right there, number 40. So Needham came across field with his man. So what does that indicate to the quarterback? That's man coverage. You see Mac Jones, he's got his hands on his head. He's calling that alert. He's letting everybody know what's going on. Here's even the better part, right? Oh, this is even beautiful. Run it a little bit. He's identifying. He's calling out the linebackers, letting everybody know. He then motions Hunter Henry into the backfield for blocking. But what also happens, Eric Rowe goes in motion with him. So even more so, it's like, oh, this is definitely man.
Yeah.
Oh, this is man all day. And look what friggin' happens. Miami only rushes 4. They drop 7 into coverage. This time, they're playing a cover 3 behind it. The Patriots only have 3 players in their routes because of the match protection. Look who's dropping in the middle of the field. Safety Javon Holland, who was on the edge, lined up at the line of scrimmage, and now you've got a big advantage and a big plus matchup in coverage because you've got 7 in coverage versus 3 in the routes. The Patriot receivers at the bottom of the screen run into one another. There's some miscommunication. Mac Jones sails his throw, incompletion. Miami gets him off the field again. This was a very creative thing that Miami did. I loved it. And it's also indicative of what teams can do again to stall and stop the Patriots, but it also ties into some things we're going to see later that the Buffalo Bills like to do on these downs. They get creative with how they mug up the line of scrimmage, who they drop out, who's coming as a rusher. This was a beautiful call from Miami, and just in staying with it, I know this is just one play. This is beautiful football. You have everybody on the line of scrimmage, right? So many people there, 8 men at the line of scrimmage. Teams know what your tendency is. They see you doing that. They see Nick Needham come across the screen with the motion man. They understand, all right, boom, they have to be in man. We know their cover 0 tendencies, especially on 3rd down. We see how many guys are on the line of scrimmage. We see Needham move in motion. Let me move motion Hunter Henry up. Eric Rowe goes in motion with him. It's definitely man. And then they drop. They drop 7. They drop 7. This is
disguise as good as you can get. I mean, beautiful. Like you said, they hammered down the pre-snap indicators. This is like, oh, this has to be man coverage. It has to be a 0 blitz. But this, more importantly, like this is what the Bills have to work with. And we talk about it every time we talk about the Bills defense, Poyer and Hyde, and how well they disguise coverages. Well, from the top to bottom of this disguise from the coaching staff, it's beautiful. And post-snap, it really wreaks havoc on these receivers because you got to remember the EP offense, this offense that the Patriots run, the Bills run, most offenses have reads. Okay, if you're dropping into a too high look, you need to run this route. Well, these receivers are obviously seeing a different coverage. They're running, one's running an in route, one's running an out route. So they obviously read the coverage completely differently, or else they would have been on the same page. And so I'm thinking, you know, the inside guy probably saw cover 3 and the inside guy saw something different. So they're running into each other. So that is something to carry in throughout this film room, but also into the game. If the Bills can disguise coverages as well as they normally do, not to just disguise and confuse Mac Jones, but to confuse the receivers and talent that the Patriots have outside at receivers, that is the next level. That is what they need to do. And even if this was correctly run, I don't know if it's even going to matter, but that was a beautiful display of disguising coverage, not to just disguise to confuse Mac Jones, but those receivers. Great work.
Beautiful. And especially too that they dropped into cover 3, which they hadn't been doing at that point. They've been running man and they've been running cover 2. And to drop into that, it was a different look up front combined with the coverage on the back end. So big time kudos to them and something that the Bills are capable of. Now we move on to the next play. 2nd and 10 from the New England 39. Again, in this theme, winning on the early downs to put the Patriots into disadvantageous situations on 3rd down. So We get Miami showing man coverage. We have a 7-man box. And what's really nice, you are going to see a blitz come right off the edge here towards the bottom of the screen. You're going to see Miami be aggressive. You see Eric Rowe cut inside. He beats Jacoby Myers inside. And that's a big thing too, right? We know these Patriot receivers, they're very good run blockers. N'Keal Harry, Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne. They are good at cracking. They're good at sealing the edge.
Yeah.
Myers gets beat inside by Eric Rowe. This is one of those run blitzes. This is what you were talking. Yep, you were talking about earlier. You've got your defensive lineman up front, slanting inside. You've got Rowe looping around on the outside. Yep, you got number 43. Watch him slant right inside. You've got Rowe coming right off of him. You've got the slants up front. You've got your fits. You've got your run legs clogged. You've got good gap integrity. There is nowhere for Brandon Bolden to go. This is a run blitz on, and again, keep in mind the down and distance. This is 2nd and 10. So this is Miami saying, screw it, we're attacking. If he holds it and it's a pass, we're coming after him, but we think they're going to run. Let's attack. We go with that run blitz because again, it's all what I mentioned just before. You want to keep the Patriots behind the sticks. They stop him on this play. Brandon Bolden gets 1 yard, and the Patriots get forced into a 3rd and 9 because the Dolphins continued this theme and this trend being aggressive on their first 2 downs. And this run blitz is really a really nice play as well. I don't love it as much as I did the previous play, but this one's good too. And now this next play, because I wanted to keep this theme going, this is the very next play right after that. So we just saw 2nd and 10. Now we see 3rd and 9 from the New England 40. And you've got Miami again showing 5 at the line of scrimmage. And what they did a good job of this game, it's something the Bills do. Different guys standing up, different guys down, shifting, moving around, kind of creating like different looks and flows. And okay, who's coming, who's not. They've got 5 at the line of scrimmage. They don't bring 5. They only rush 4. They drop a linebacker. And this time, this is one of the very first times on 3rd down, they ran cover 1 behind it. So they run man coverage. What's nice about this, so you get the confusing look up front where you've got 5, but you only bring 4. Look how physical they are at the line of scrimmage. And notice who's being physical, right? You've got Eric Rowe, physical number 21 at the bottom of the screen. And then you've got another physical jam and press up on the receiver right there by the 41-yard line. The closest receivers to Mac Jones are getting hit and are getting rerouted and are getting there. The Dolphins are getting physical.
Disrupting.
With them.
Yeah.
Yes. And why are they disrupting them? Because where does Mac Jones want to work? Again, 23% in the short center, 10% in the intermediate center, 12% in the short right. He wants to work 9 yards and below. So if you reroute all those guys underneath, you affect Mac Jones's rhythm, Mac Jones's timing, and he is very much a rhythm and timing thrower. And you also highlighted up top, you got Brandon Jones and Nick Needham, number 29 and 40 by the 50-yard line. They're bracketing the receiver coming through there.
Yeah,
and then
nice in and out.
Beautiful. And then you've still got the deep safety over the top. So there's nowhere for Mac Jones to go. It's also a tendency breaker in this game because Miami had been playing a lot of different zone coverage looks on 3rd down. Mac doesn't have anywhere to go. So what does he do? He gets flushed from the pocket. He rolls out. And this is not a strength of his. Neither is throwing on the run. And he has to make a throw he doesn't want. The defender closes down. Eric Rowe, who jammed the hell out of Hunter Henry, makes a good play on the ball, cuts this off, takes a good angle. The Pats receivers were not able to separate. And I just love the call from Miami just from the start, giving him a look up front, dropping out of it, and then playing a different coverage again and doing things again to break up the rhythm of the Patriots.
Rhythm.
They
Yeah,
want to
man.
work that
You're right.
short and intermediate. Yep.
No doubt, dude. Because like as you said, they're disrupting those receivers. Look when he gets to the top of his drop. Okay, boom. Now he's going through his read here, and I think he's got these 2 in breaking routes right here. Well, against single high look, well, those are taken away, and he's got to do something with the ball here. And so again, this does not work to his strength. So very, very good play here by the defense, and getting physical is something that the Bills will have to do. I mean, let's be honest here. I don't think there are many weapons that the Bills should really be scared of as far as wideouts go, when it comes to the Patriots offense. But, they have the ability to get physical with these guys. And I think that's something they should absolutely do to throw off the rhythm that Mac Jones likes to play in.
Yes, and it's a nice way to just continue to keep that offense off balance. So it's like, okay, let's run a little cover two. Okay, let's run a little cover three. Okay, let's play some man, but let's get very physical because, again, we're throwing off that timing, we're throwing off that rhythm. And it all speaks to the nature of the limitations of the Patriots offense, which are tied to Mac Jones and the limitations he has with his arm in terms of getting vertical with his throws. Again, only 11.1% of his passes coming 20 yards or more. He is a guy who wants to live in that short area. He's the guy who wants to live in that intermediate. And now we show some Bills tape, the Bills defense against the New England Patriots. So this is the very first offensive snap for the Patriots offense. So thus the first snap for the Bills defense in that week 16 game. And first and 10 from the Pats 25, you have an extra lineman in for this play reporting as eligible. And you have a no gain run for Damian Harris. But the key is look at the Buffalo Bills selling out for the run on
Yeah, look,
first down.
everyone.
Look at them all attacking even before the snap. So you've got a 7-man box for the Bills. You've got 3 linebackers with Klein, Milano, Edmonds. Look at them already start to creep forward as it's about to snap. They are anticipating run. They are attacking just like what Miami did in week 18 against them, just like teams that have had success against New England's offense have done this year, making them have to play behind the sticks, not allowing them to take advantage of that third overall DVOA on first down, not allowing them to generate positive yards and get into third and manageable or third questionable situations where they can run or they can pass. This was a really good job by the Bills. Good run fits, good job by Harrison Phillips, good
Yeah.
job by AJ Klein. But again, attacking the Patriots on first and second down in order to make Mac Jones beat you
You
on
talk
later
about
downs.
you talk about establishing the line of scrimmage, the Dolphins and the physicality. I mean, watch the pushback here by Harrison Phillips. Now, they're attacking the weak side of this formation, and this is something that they did in the first matchup. Well, guess what? That was Tyrell Dodson, not AJ Klein. You see AJ Klein playing shallow. He
Mhm.
gets in there, but the penetration and physicality by Harrison Phillips on that play was, and he's just a guy that's stacked
He's been
some
killing it.
really good games this year.
Look at
And really,
Ed Oliver
yeah,
coming down the line to cut off any
yeah,
angles.
you're not gonna reach block that guy. I mean, this really plays into the strength of the Bills. We got the power at the point of attack with the nose tackle and Phillips, and then you got the speed and pursuit from Ed Oliver on the backside. We've seen him blow up these type of zone run plays several times. Most notably, I think it was that Saints game. But yeah, no,
Yes.
like you said, get them behind the chains, man. And those 2 defensive tackles have really helped out the Bills' run defense this year.
They've been stout. And again, this is a run. Like you said, the Pats are running a zone run here. They're most successful running their gap schemes. And the Bills, when they've been beaten in the run game, has been gap scheme runs. We think
Mhm.
about the Colts game. We think about the first game against the Patriots. So I love that you said, the Pats running a zone run here, especially an outside zone run. It basically plays into the strength of this Bills defense, and the Bills shut it down. This is the very next play. So 2nd and 10 from the New England 25. And you mentioned it earlier. What did you talk about? The Bills' ability to spin safeties. This is another example of a run blitz. So keep your eye on Micah Hyde, number 23 there. He comes up as Taron Johnson flies out to follow the motion man. Beautiful timing from Micah Hyde. He comes screaming up the field. He's almost at full speed when this ball is snapped. And this is one of those things, right? This is a run blitz. So the defensive end slices inside. Hyde comes around the edge. And if Mac Jones hands this ball off, the running back is dead to rights. Mac Jones doesn't hand the ball off, so Hyde reads it. He continues his path,
Mhm.
bears down on Mac Jones. Mac Jones runs away like that little kid in the Little Giants who was yelling, blow the whistle. And he throws it right into Gregory Rousseau's face, and it's a batted ball. But again, the theme, what's the theme we're going with, right? Aggressive against New England on first and second down, run blitzes, or blitzes that just turn into regular blitzes against the pass if it's a play action or a pass. The idea of keeping them behind the sticks. And it's a really good job from this Bills defensive line, stunning inside and slanting inside. Rousseau comes screaming off the edge. Boom, you highlighted it. Harry shifts to his left. Jerry Hughes takes an angle inside. Hyde comes off and squeezes that down. If it's a run, it's over. Tremaine Edmonds has his guy. Dane Jackson is in trail. Mac Jones has no time to get this ball off because
Good
of the
defense.
pursuit right away from Micah Hyde. It's a really good call, a really good tone setter, and exactly good defense. And it's another thing that the Miami Dolphins did in week 18 and things that the Pats have done overall. And now this is, again, the next play. 3rd down and 10 from the New England 25. And what do you have? Again, 3rd and 10, a not ideal situation for the Patriots. Not ideal because it's 3rd and long for any team, which they don't want, but especially the Patriots, because 62% of Mac Jones's throws come 9 yards or below. So the Bills here, they show 5 on the line of scrimmage, similar to what Miami did, but Matt Milano is going to drop, and Tremaine Edmonds is going to come on a very nicely timed blitz. So they're still going to bring 5, but they bring it in a creative way, in a different way. Milano drops out. Poyer drops out. You've now got a 2-high look, and you've got a 2-high man coverage look.
They did that a lot. They did that a lot in this game. 3rd and long, they went to 2-man a lot.
Yes, they did. And what do you have up top, right? The man that Dane Jackson is on the top of the screen, the closest man to Mac Jones, he gets hit. He gets rerouted. Look at Gregory Rousseau take on Hunter Henry and get a piece of him and stop him. Henry is trying to get a piece of him as well, but that's fine. It works because Henry's going to release, but that's fine. You are rerouting and jamming and getting physical with a guy that Mac Jones wants to get to. Milano flows over the top. There's nowhere to go for Hunter Henry. The Bills have a no-fly zone scenario on the Patriots receivers. Beautiful. I'm glad you highlighted it. Beautiful trail technique from these guys. They're playing underneath like that. And why are they doing that? Because look at what they have over the top. There is nowhere for this ball to go. Mac Jones would have to make the best throw of all time in order to fit this in with arm talent in terms of pace on the ball and location. There's nowhere to go. And the Bills get a sack from Ed Oliver that results from the 5-man game that they played up front. But again, another creative way. You show 5, but you drop 1, you bring someone else, a really well-timed blitz from Tremaine Edmonds. You get physical with the receivers and jam them in man coverage, reroute them. You throw off Mac Jones's timing. You throw off his reads. You make him have to wade through a lot of hurdles and hop over a lot of hurdles, overcome a lot of obstacles just to complete a 3rd down. This is not where the Patriots want to live. They want to live in 3rd and short. They want to live in 3rd and medium, manageable downs. They don't want to be in 3rd and long. It's not advantageous to their offense. And it was a really good job from the Bills, opening drive, 3 and out, and winning every single down.
I like this too, because this is like a variation to their cub front. So you'll normally have a couple of defensive linemen right here. And usually this is Milano. But they put Milano over here. Why? Because he's in man coverage on him. So it's a slight variation to their cub front. Because normally this is that game right there. And this is Milano going one-on-one with the running back and, getting the quarterback off the spot. Edmonds does a good job of doing that. But I think it's really Ed Oliver obviously looping around and almost getting a natural pick because
like Edmonds, a stun almost,
Edmonds was able to get in so deep on the quarterback spot right there. Really, really nice play from them on that. And that 2-man look and that dog technique, you talked about that trail technique. That's something the Bills love to use on those 3rd down situations, 3rd and long especially. And I think this is the Jets game from a couple weeks ago we're going to next, right?
Yes, so this is the first time the Bills played the Jets. And the reason I pulled this out is because the Bills did a couple things in this game that worked really well, but it ties into the theme of what teams are doing against the New England Patriots and what I think the Bills need to do against the New England Patriots. So here you have a 3rd and 5 for the Jets. The Jets are on their own 30. So again, 3rd and 5, not crazy. Bills are in their mugged up A-gap look. They love to take their linebackers a la the Panthers defense from all those years ago. They put both of their linebackers in those A-gaps. So they've got 6 on the line of scrimmage. This is a really creative one, right? We lauded over the Miami look from several plays ago in that game against New England. The Bills do something very similar here. So mugged up A-gaps, 6 on the line of scrimmage. Everything looks like a blitz. It looks like man coverage on the back end. Perhaps not based on the alignment of the corners, but Mike White reads this as a blitz. He reads this as man, and what happens? So 6 are on the line of scrimmage. They only rush 3. They drop Mario Addison, AJ Klein, and Vernon Butler, which is just unreal. And you get a zone coverage, a 2-eye zone coverage behind it. Mike White doesn't know what to make of it. And everybody has somebody eyed up. There is nowhere really for Mike White to go for this ball. Levi is at the bottom of the screen breaking on the out.
It's
Poyer
pretty.
it is beautiful.
So
Poyer is
pretty.
flying over to get over the top because he sees Levi coming to play the out by number 2. So number 1
Yeah.
is going vertical. He's about to cover him. Hyde is carrying the vertical from the inside receiver. The corner up top, Trey is letting his in route come in because he knows where he has support. They've got a body on a body. They've got eyes on everyone. And this is nice. Again, we're tying it all together. This is nice for this game. Well done. Good execution. The Jets actually get the first down on this play. So kudos to Mike White for finding the guy. But it works into what do you want to do against New England Patriots? You clog the short to intermediate. You play games up front. You rush guys that maybe aren't normally rushing. You drop guys into coverage that maybe aren't supposed to be covering. And I know, some people might want to say like, oh, well, it didn't work. The Jets got the first
This is
down.
impressive play by Mike White. He makes it to his fifth option here. But I mean, can Mac Jones do that consistently on those money downs? And I love this because as you said, you're dropping guys out, more of like a sim pressure, 3-man rush. But this is the first option where he wants to go to. Well, guess what? He's trapped. He's trapped by Taron Johnson. He's trapped by the
Mario Addison.
Yep. And, okay, so then if he wants to throw to this guy, well, guess what? He's trapped. But he's trapped by Levi Wallace. Well, if he wants to throw to this guy, well, guess what? He's trapped. It's like you're forcing the quarterback to go through their reads. And like I said, Mike White did it beautifully on this play. He did it in a timely manner. He goes, okay, I eliminated those three receivers. I'm outmanned over there. I'm going to go to the backside of this. And he finds that little stop route over the middle, right outside of the reach of Vernon Butler. And he's able to do that. But that is a great example of forcing your quarterback to go through the reads and get through all of them. I don't know if Mac Jones can do that consistently. Mike White couldn't do it consistently in this game. This is an example of him doing it, but he couldn't in this game overall.
And that's something that honestly, like if it happens on this play, you tip your hat and you say, okay, good execution, QB. Well done. Can you continue to do it? And that's the game you want to play with Mac Jones. You want to keep betting that he's not going to beat you. And if he does, good job to him. But the Pats don't want to do that themselves. They want to run the ball. They don't want to let Mac Jones beat you or make Mac Jones beat you. They want to let him live in the system, live in the structure. And if you force him out of it or confuse him, it's to your advantage. And this last clip that we have here, 3rd and 10 for the New York Jets from their own 36. And this is another really good call from the Bills. So what do we see? We see more mugged up A-gaps. We see Klein creep up to the line of scrimmage. We see Milano creep up to the line of scrimmage. And a very similar to a play defensively like what we just saw. Jets bring a motion man across. You see Taron Johnson widen out a little bit. And boom, we get the snap. Both linebackers fly out. They rush 4 this time, a predictable 4, or I should say a more normal 4, because you have all the down linemen coming. Klein drops. Milano drops. We see a good pressure up front driven by this Bills offensive line that leads to a bit of a deflection. There's good spacing and leverage and coverage. It leads to the interception. But I would say go back a little bit and pause it right there. Right? This is 3rd and 10.
Yeah.
If you go right to boom, right there where Taron Johnson's at the marker. This is 3rd and 10. Mike White is not completing this pass for a first down. His best chance of a throw is to that receiver, boom, right there at the 40, or the running back coming out of the backfield. And if he completes one of those, then that's what you want as the defense. And then you rally and tackle, you come up and you make a play. The throws past the sticks are all covered up like you highlighted.
Yep.
Hyde's got his man coming over the top. The Bills are playing their quarters coverage. They love to run cover 4. They love running that quarters. There is nobody available at the marker or past it. The only throw you have is the underneath. Again, clogging the short to intermediate, playing the situation, playing the quarterback, playing the scheme. It just happens to be that this play works out and Taron Johnson gets an interception, so good on him. But the real reason I chose this play was, one, because of how it starts. Those mugged up A-gap looks, confusing a quarterback, making him try to figure out who's rushing, who's not, making the offensive line trying to figure out who's rushing, who's not, then dropping into different coverages based out of those looks and doing different things, knowing the situation down and distance, knowing your opponent, making them have to beat you. If Mike White completes one of these throws and somebody breaks a tackle and gets the first down, cool. If he hits one of the routes past the sticks and he throws a dime, again, you tip your hat. But the odds are based on the looks you're presenting and the down and distance and your opponent, the odds are that this quarterback is not going to complete those passes. And no disrespect to either Mike White or Mac Jones, but I think that situation is comparable to Mac Jones because you are going to make him have to be perfect in order to beat you when you get him into third and long and third and where the Patriots don't want to be.
And this is one of those plays, disguising coverage, right? Too high safety look. You got the mugged linebackers. It's all in harmony, the pass rush and then the secondary and their coverage. Now, let's take a look at this more closely. To a normal quarterback, this looks like, hey, this is gonna be a Tampa 2 coverage, right? That means Klein's probably gonna carry this guy as far as he can, which is why you're gonna see Mike White's probably expecting Klein to be out of here, and he's gonna hit the dig over the middle. He's expecting that, but as you had mentioned, this is disguised really well, and it's quarters coverage. It's actually not Tampa 2, but it looks very similar, and you can tell that it's quarters coverage because it's a trip set. It's a too high look. And you see Hyde right here, his eyes, he's poaching. He's poaching number 3. That's what they're taught in quarters coverage is you're supposed to watch out for that bender. And on that bender route, he's going to be taken over by Hyde if it's quarters coverage. His eyes are on him. And you see him. He's not playing half field. He's playing towards the middle of the field because he's squeezing that vertical route by the number 3 receiver. So, again, this guy is probably expecting – Mike White's expecting Klein to be out of there. He's expecting the dig to be open behind him as Johnson kind of sits flat at the first down marker. But it all comes back to the beginning of the play. And as you said, to kind of wrap this film room up, that mugged look, it's all in harmony. Why does that matter? Why does that mug look matter? Because what a mug look does when these guys obviously drop out. But what that does is they have several guys that can blitz, at least 6 guys that can rush, which means the offensive line has to what? Has to account for everyone. So you got 5 offensive linemen and a running back. Okay, well, they better have that covered in case 6 guys come. Of course, 6 don't. But what that does is look at the alignment of Obata. Look at the alignment of Rousseau. That puts defensive linemen in one-on-one situations. And Obata is able to get a one-on-one situation with this guard. He plays really aggressive. He plays with consistency here. You see him work through the block, and he's able to get his hand there to block the ball, to deflect it, and into Taron Johnson's hand. So that is the epitome of disguising coverage, but also the harmony between a pass rush and the secondary in coverage, man. Another really good play chosen to break down this Bills defense.
And that's the key, right? Like honestly, we could have done this for even longer, even though we've already been doing it for like 2.5. But this is the formula for stopping this New England Patriots offense, right? You want to limit the running attack, and it's easier said than done. These are things that are known, and it's a matter of whether or not you can do it. But being aggressive on first and second down, run blitzes, putting the Patriots into second and long, third and long, where all of a sudden, even if it wasn't Mac Jones, if it's 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8, majority of the time, what do you think? Okay, it's going to be a pass, right? Let alone if it's Mac Jones, then you're like, okay, this is where he functions. This is where he likes to throw. Here's his tendencies. Here's their formational reads. Here's what they want to do. You want to get the Patriots into situations where they are predictable and they have to lean on the arm of Mac Jones, which is not a world that they want to live in. No disrespect to Mac Jones, but he is not that guy. He can function within a system. He can function when he's set up for success and he has pieces around him, which he is to a degree in New England. They've surrounded him with some pieces, but when it comes down to putting the game on his shoulders, or in this case, putting the game on his arm, he is not built for that. And the recipe for defeating the Patriots offense and defeating Mac Jones, the Bills have that ability. The Bills have that blueprint. What Miami did last week, the Bills can do that. And that's why we pulled those clips from what they did against New England, from what they did against the Jets. And if they can continue that, it's a very positive thing for this Bills offense, given where the Patriots offense is deficient. Oh, that's an awesome comment there from Sophia saying that she's learning so much. That's the reason we do it. That's awesome to hear people tell us that. It feels good, man.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun film room extravaganza, as someone said in the chat room. Yeah. But that leads me into the next portion. No, I'm just kidding.
Right? The next hour.
No, that's a great segue when we talk about extravaganzas, because tomorrow night there's quite the lineup, man, that I believe you're taking part in, right?
I am. This will be
You're the
my
workhorse. Of
the
course you are.
workhorse, man. Of course. So I did the Cover One post game show Sunday. I did 2 podcast appearances Tuesday. I did disguise coverage yesterday. I'm doing this tonight. So yeah, that'll be my 6th show of the week. I'm loving it though,
Woo.
man. And yeah, I'm exhausted, but it's a good kind of exhaustion. It's a good kind of busy. And I wouldn't be here without, you bringing me aboard the team and giving me this platform. So I'm pumped as hell. And I really hope the Bills beat the Patriots. Otherwise, I'm moving to an island and I'm leaving the world.
It's gonna take, yeah. I mean, if that doesn't happen, if they can't beat them, it's gonna take a few days of decompression.
I like this comment from William. This is so we should mark it like the Cover One Film Room, a podcast you can clean your house to.
Oh, that was awesome. Thanks, William. But yeah, make sure after I'm sure you're gonna. Maybe you guys didn't watch the whole thing with us. You have to break this into segments. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed what we did here with the analytics, the film, and kind of playing this, the pro scout and for the Bills against the Patriots on the offense and defensive side of the ball. Hope you enjoyed that. Make sure to like it. Make sure to share it. And let everyone know what we have going on at Cover One, the type of coverage that we're bringing, because again, we couldn't do this without you, and the quality we bring is unlike any other. Obviously, that is something we wholeheartedly believe in, and I hope you guys, are able to share that with others so that they can learn from what we just, broke down. But again, tomorrow, I mean, I can't even list how many people are showing up
There's
for
a
this
lot.
roundtable. It'll probably be very much like this, and but the screen will be full of, obviously more people. It got to be in the double digits and who is showing up
Yeah.
for the roundtable
There's like 9 or 10.
extravaganza. Yeah. So Friday night, bring your, I know Greg, usually makes his steak or whatever the night before the game. Well, he's going to have to be doing that tomorrow. So join him for that. Bring your whiskey, bring your beverages, make sure to hydrate, as we said tonight. And aside from that, of course, regardless, the post-game show after the game, and you'll have us in the film room next week sometime, probably back on our regular schedule Tuesday nights, hopefully celebrating a win with some good film from the Bills against the Patriots. And Anthony, anything else before we take off, man?
No, I'm just thankful to be here and excited for this game. I'm also really tired and excited to go to sleep after this. But this was awesome. Thanks to everybody. The fact that we've been doing this for 2.5 hours and we're still almost at 200. We had basically over 200 live viewers, the heavy majority of the show rolling deep, the appetite that everybody has for the content we put out, the appreciation that people are showing us with the super chats, and not just the super chats, the comments in general, the kind words, the feedback, but it's the questions and the interaction that everybody shows us in the chat or in the comments after on YouTube or on Twitter. So just really appreciative of everybody for riding with us live on this episode. And if you didn't ride live, that's fine. Thank you very much for your view later, your listen later, wherever you're watching or listening to this. We would be nothing without you guys. We greatly appreciate it. And we're really, proud of the work that we do and really glad that you guys enjoy it so much. So thank you.
That's the workhorse, Anthony Prohaska from Disguise Coverage. I am Eric Turner. We'll see you next week.